Welcome to the grand finale of the 2025 Zwift Games live on GCN. This weekend, to wrap things up and crown the overall winners, it's the Epic Championships, the most brutal of all the stages in the Zwift Games this year, and by some margin. I'll be talking you through what makes this stage so hard very shortly, but we're first going to start by reminding ourselves of how we've got to this point.
From the Belgium! Bates walks away with this one! We gotta go back to a photo finish on that one. 10 points for McCarthy with the arrow power-up. And it's going to be Gara taking down the first across the line. The rocket ship makes it to the line. And this is an all-in move from Kate McCarthy. Kate McCarthy takes this one down.
So, Neil Fryett and World Esports Champion Kate McCarthy showing the rest who's boss both weeks so far. Who's boss both weeks so far. They've already crowned themselves sprint and climb showdown champions. But they've still got work to do if they want to take home the overall Zwift Games crown. Let's take a look at the standings, starting with the men. So Fryett is currently second overall, but now just 3 points behind the leader, Jasper Paradines of Aber Synergy, who retained that lead last week by the narrowest of margins. It's not just Fryett who's breathing down his neck though. Josh Harris is just 2 points further adrift, whilst Ruben Dhondt and Lionel Vujasin are also in close proximity. World champion Jason Osborne not out of it either, and Lennart Turgels put himself back in the picture last week by picking up more points than anybody else in stages 3 and 4. Kaminowski, Gobert and Hoog make up the rest of the top 10. Meanwhile, over in the women's, Kate McCarthy of Rocacorba Collective will be feeling a little more comfortable than Paradines. Her advantage over second place Maria Holdcroft is 18 points after those first 4 stages. Gabriella Aguero is third, 5 points further adrift, whilst Catherine Furrer of Aeonian dropped from third to fourth last week. Lou Bates, who performed so well last week, is now up to 5th, whilst Mika Söderström, Lucy Charles Barkley, Marlene Bjarahed, Elise Galagos and Eiley Gardner round out the top 10. For those of you who aren't familiar with the format of the Zwift Games, here's the key information. The Zwift Games is a stage race with 5 stages spread over 3 Saturdays that will ultimately crown the overall Zwift Games Championship title winners. What's at stake for these riders? Prize money is available for the top 30 riders in the general classification, plus the podium places in each individual championship. All championship winners will also receive the legendary Golden Concept Z1 bike, an exclusive bike to shine across Zwift for the future. OK, with 4 of the 5 stages now complete, we should probably focus on the final one, which is so hard it could really turn everything on its head. It is the Epic Championships. Now, I did this stage last Tuesday, and I'm still recovering 4 days later. More on that later. But let's take a deeper dive now into what makes this stage so hard. The final event of the Zwift Games, Stage 5, takes place on the all-new ZG25 Queen in Watopia. The riders will start by heading out to Jarvis, where the first bonus points can be picked up for the overall classification. After heading through the jungle on dirt roads, the riders will face the climb on the southern coast, where, halfway up, more bonus points will be available for those standings. Turning left onto the grade, the riders will continue up towards the Zwift Alps before a long descent and across to the epic reverse climb. This final push will take the riders to the summit of the epic climb and to the end of the stage. The overall route is 44.8 kilometres in distance with an elevation gain of 894 metres. Each racer will get a feather power-up at the start of the race, and as a reminder, power-up makes a rider lighter for 30 seconds, perfect for the climbing the riders will face today. The Epic Championship will be decided by the first rider across the finish line. Bonus points available are 10, 5 and 3 for the first 3 rides across the line at Jarvis and Mayan mountainside climbs, which will be added to the points picked up at the finish line, where the winner will take 70. Any points they pick up today will be added to the points they accumulated from stages 1 to 5, and the rider with the most points over the 5 stages is going to be crowned overall Zwift Games 2025 champion. I don't think that profile does this stage justice, particularly actually that penultimate climb up the grade, which is just, well, brutal. Double-digit gradients most of the way up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I took that stage on myself at the start of last week, and just to warn you all, it wasn't pretty. So this is going to be my longest ever virtual ride at around 45 kilometres with almost 1,000 metres of climbing. So 7 minutes to go, short warm-up. I've come prepared though with some food and drink. Wish me luck. Seems like everyone's starting a bit steadier because it's a long one. So 1.5 k's done, 43.2 to go. It's an average 234 watts already. So I'm about to start the first reasonable sized climb of the day. See it on the profile there. Try and stick near the front, and I'm going to have my first gel down the other side. Grams of carbs right there. High heart rate today though, still 151 on this descent. Haven't used my feather power up yet though, and I've noticed a lot of others have. So I'm exactly halfway through by distance, but less than a quarter of the way through elevation gain. This is going to be very tough. Okay, first major climb of the day and penultimate. A lot of red on the profile. I've got to say I'm starting to feel it a bit. Been with the front group most of the way, but might have to let them go now. Right, last K. And the finish line can't come soon enough for me. Okay, flattens off with about 400 metres to go. It's actually a downhill finish. Thank goodness. Oh. 200 metres. No raising my arms aloft today. 22nd place. Oh. I'm just going to hand back to myself in the studio, I think, because I need a few days to recover. Back to you, Dan. Thanks, Dan. And no, I still haven't recovered from that effort. I just want to remind you all that everybody is able to take part in the Zwift Games. I, for example, still need to catch up on stage 2, which I missed. So I can do that from Monday and throughout next week, where there's an opportunity to catch up on any stage that you've missed, or all 5 of them, actually, if you want to start then. One more thing that I want to mention before we get started properly. So the current overall leaders, who to remind you are Kate McCarthy and Jasper Paradines, are going to be wearing a special white and gold jersey in-game today, so you'll very easily be able to spot them in the races. Right then, with the start of the race approaching very quickly now, it is probably time that I introduce you all to our commentators for today. Same team as last week, so Nathan Guerra and Anna Russell. Nathan, I want to start by thanking you for your explanation of how the tuck works last week. I needed that on this course between those final 2 climbs. And it actually worked really well because I had a pair of riders behind me who had to still pedal when I stopped pedalling. But onto the race, I'm going to come to you first, Anna. This stage is so much harder and so much longer than anything that they've tackled so far in the Zwift Games. So in the men's race, who would you say that favours and who are you expecting to slide down the order?
Yeah, you're right, Dan. I rode this course as well during the week. I was not as good as you. I bowed out about halfway and made it a zone 2 easy cruise to the finish. And that's really hard. So yeah, this is going to favour that real attritional, but the one who can climb really well. These are proper 10% kind of grade climbs. So I've got a head and a heart pick this week. My heart is with Josh Harris to win. I picked him last week. I wanted him to get there. He didn't quite get there. But my head pick is actually Leonard Tugels. He performed really well on these kind of courses last year, and he's been a little bit sort of in the pack, playing it smart, and I think today's his day.
Up there in the ranks with him, hasn't he? 3 of those riders in the top 7 of the overall standings at the Zwift Games. Nathan, I know you've picked out 5 riders to watch again this week. Can you talk us through them?
Yeah, definitely. And we definitely want to talk about, there's an overall here for the Zwift Games overall and a lot of points on the line throughout this race. But then there's also on the day today, who is the first across the line. This is the first time in the Zwift Games that it's just first across the line for this day's championship for the Epic. So we're not looking at this day's win through the points. We're looking at it as first across the line. But watch out for Neil Fryett for the Zwift Games overall championship, in my opinion, because he has been so good anytime it comes to a big kick to the line. And we've got that first Jarvis KOM followed up by that Mayan KOM where he can grab 10 points on each of those. Jasper Paradines, watch out for him to try and hold on to the overall through those points. But when we're talking about the win on the day, Josh Harris is my hard pick big time as well. I really want Josh to have a big result today. He's been looking for it. Lion of Yasin, never go by him. Then there's the new upstart, Ruben Dhondt. Really great to see everything that he's been up to. Also someone to watch out that's looking for some points and maybe working for Jasper. We actually had a chance to catch up with Ruben to talk about what's been going on with him and this big breakthrough year in esports.
So hello everyone, my name is Ruben Dhondt and I'm 25 years old. Well, I'm currently in 4th position, very close to the 1st position. My heart would say I just have to go all in for the overall win, but my brain says that I have to be realistic. I know on the longer climbs I'm quite limited against some of these guys, especially for example if you take a look at Jason Osborne, he's very close behind me and I don't think it's very realistic for me to follow him on the last course. So yeah, my main focus is just to finish as high as possible. And of course we have Jasper who's in the lead of the GC. So I will see if I can work also for him without risking my own chances, of course, because it would be a pity if I empty my tank and by doing that finishing 30th or 40th. So yeah, I have to keep my own GC also in mind, of course. Well, we have a field of very different kind of racers. We have the more sprinty, punchy types. So I guess those guys will try to be aggressive in the start and form a breakaway to just try and sneak some points away at the intermediate. But at the same time, I also think some guys in the top 8 of the GC that are a bit more sprinty types will try to go for it. For example, we have Neil Fryett. He will probably try to sneak away and take 10 points at the intermediate, which would be a good benefit for him in the GC. So yeah, I think it will be aggressive from the start.
Ruben Dhondt there, who, as he said, sits 4th overall in the Zwift Games 2025, so he's still in the picture to win the overall classification. But as he also said, it's his teammate Jasper Paradines who is currently leading, although not by much from Neil Fryett. Just to remind you another time, it's the feather power-up that all the competitors will have available to them today on this Epic Championships. That, once deployed, will last for 30 seconds, and in the game it makes you 10% lighter. So for example, if you're 70 kilograms, for those 30 seconds you are going to weigh just 63 kilograms. Where will they use it? That is the big question. You'd imagine on the final climb to the finish, but Fryett there, we know he wants to pick up as many points en route as possible, and with those 2 intermediate sprints today where you can get 10 points for first across the line, it might be that he sees fit to deploy one of them then. Right, just a few seconds left until stage 5, the grand finale of the men, so I'll hand you over to Nathan and Anna.
Oh, here we go. The usual Zwift start up and out of the saddle. We can see all the riders getting going. Heading out from the piers in downtown Zwift. The first thing they're going to be looking forward to today is going to be the entry to that classic course that was recently released, that throwback to the original beta of Zwift, which was the Jarvis World. So cool that Zwift has put that in, and as well as including it in this year's Zwift Games.
Yeah, I love this new world, this Jarvis world. It was so well done how they launched it too. And we are seeing a launch off the front as well. Straight away, Thomas Thrall from Canada, Canadian national champion, with that resplendent maple leaf on his jersey. I love it that he's attacking this early on. But I did want to say, Nathan, I'd be interested in your thoughts. I think this course is perfect for teams to potentially send a satellite rider up the road. And we see James Barnes going, I know this might be in his wheelhouse, to be that satellite type rider. The likes of what you'd see Wout van Aert doing for Jonas Vingegaard in the Tour de France.
It's a good call out, actually. And this is Canadian national champion, Irish national champion, as well as James Barnes jumping in all from the same team. This is all next presented by Insured. Not just one satellite rider. They're trying to make things hard to launch either one of these or all three of these off the front. I have a feeling we're going to see this nonstop from next presented by Insured, perhaps, to try and set something up maybe for their strongest climber on the day to win the day. You know, we didn't see a whole lot of next in the overalls right now, so maybe they've shifted focus a little bit at this point to say, let's just win on the day, set Thomas Perrin up, who, when we saw him go uphill last year, it was not even a competition between everybody else and him. So watch out for maybe a setup for next presented by Insured for Thomas Perrin, and that might be what they're up to. Jason Osborne countering quickly there, but then backing right on off at the front. Also a rider who maybe wants to make things as hard as he possibly can. It's a rider today that's going to be looking to be attritional because that's where he is favored.
Yeah, this is really hard start to this racing. It is a extremely difficult and tricky course to navigate. It's going up the Jarvis KOM, then it's a bit of flat, and then, you know, it's not a KOM, but it's that click into the epic climb, but they're not going up the epic climb to start with. They're going to drop down into the jungle. That's actually very hard as well. Then it's just basically Mayan climb. It's a climb. The grade climb, descent, and then up the epic again. So this is making it really, really hard straight off the bat. We're only a couple of kilometers in, and these climbers in the bunch will kind of be going, what are you guys doing? Come on, we need to save a bit of energy here. But they don't want them to save energy. They want to burn those legs, like you said, Nathan, for those climbers as they start to hit what will be soon the first points available. Now, do you see anybody, as we see Habit here off the front at 6.3, do you see anyone really launching so early at that Jarvis KOM?
I think that everybody's going to be well, here's the thing. If Sebastian goes off the front here and is actually able to grab those 10 points, Richard Berry now looking to go across next, really wanting to get involved with this. But I think this is probably going to be brought back. I was a little bit concerned for a moment there because if 10 points go up the road, it changes the entirety of the strategy for some of the teams out there. Because if these riders who are thinking about the overall still, they're like, is this a threat? Is this not a threat? I need to be marking certain riders. And if riders are not a threat to the overall for some of these top riders who are looking to win the Zwift Games, they might allow those points to just go up the road if they're already secure. So it's interesting to see that now this is brought back in, though. Freddie Ovett here, Jason Osborne, definitely motivated. Here we go, loving the view. This is something awesome that Zwift has put together for this year's Zwift Games. Head over to zwiftgames.com. You can find all the information over there. But this is the dashboard. The dashboard shows you live riders, what the groups currently are. It's got some of the favorites on the right-hand side there with their live cameras, time-elapse, all the information that you could want about what's currently happening on the live dashboard. Make sure to head over to zwiftgames.com. Check out that dashboard. You can see the link at the bottom here. Great job by Zwift putting that together. Again, another attack. Abus now, another team that might be wanting to set a satellite perhaps to steal some points away. Anna, you talked about this. It's a good way to just take those points out of the conversation if Jasper's looking to climb well today.
Yeah, exactly. We actually heard Ruben Dhondt talk about that in his interview, that if it didn't take away from his own result, he would be working for the team. And the fact of the matter is, like you said, Nathan, they have got to go after bonus points because it is tight points-wise for the top three. So Josh Harris, he's both our heart picks. He needs to get these bonus points. He needs to pull a Kate McCarthy here and be going all in. So these sprinters up the road, the Thomas Thrall, the Matthew he can't have them go up there. He needs these bonus points desperately to be able to pull ahead. He won't be able to get it just through finish line point. So I'm surprised here that someone from his team, Team Aero, isn't trying to chase this down and bring them back, because they've got a bit of a gap now. We're looking at 4 seconds and growing.
Yeah, Johan Noren making things very difficult. Big points up for grabs for him to move him up a little bit in the overalls. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But at 5 seconds, nobody really making the chase now at this point. Those points might be gone. This is already 4 riders, and they're gonna duke it out for the only 3 positions, perhaps. But I think we are gonna in a second here see a big lead in. Now this climb is an interesting one. It does kind of a little bit of a 2-tier. It's a steady little 3 to 4, maybe 5 at the most. Then it flattens out for a second, and then it's a really sharp punch for probably less than 30 seconds, maybe even just 15 seconds. But it's a very sharp punch at the top. So it's a very fast lead in into an absolutely crazy uphill sprint, essentially, as Thomas Thrall continues at 6.6. They almost got 10 seconds. I'm not sure they're bringing that back here as Ollie Jones hits the front. Now, maybe Ollie Jones is going to be the lead out here for the coalition team.
Yeah, you're right. This is a climb probably similar to what we saw last week with the volcano, a bit draftable here in these early stages. And no one from this little group is kind of getting away. But look, 10 seconds here. Now, if these guys play it right, if the group behind does not chase because the climbers are trying to save their legs, this is seriously a group of 4 who could stay away now at least until the bottom of the grade or halfway up the grade, potentially. Now, I talked a little bit, as we see Thomas Thrall there screen on screen. That is quite a setup. That is a lot of fan action going on him, and he is working hard up on the saddle. What a low RPM. Nathan, actually, can you talk about that a bit? Because that's something that, I notice a lot with Zwift racing, say compared to in real life racing. Why do they ride these hills, 1, up out of the saddle, and 2, it's such a low RPM?
Yeah, I'll definitely hit that in just a second. I want to see who hits the sprint, though, as Matthew de Kock here looks like at the front, looking to try and grab as many points, or at least set others up to grab these points, because these points are gone. They are not bringing this back. 11 seconds isn't coming through with just 200 meters or so to go. Thrall looking to try and grab him from Johan Noren. Johan Noren versus Thomas Thrall. And this is all about the overall in the Zwift Games as well. Maybe they're sitting around that top 10 and want to sneak their way into that top 10 with these points. Big point grab from Thomas Thrall with that low cadence. And as you were talking about, he's going to take those down. Johan Noren followed up by Matthew de Kock. Nice job. James Barnes now backing off because he sees that his teammate is now off the front and could start working together with Johan Noren. These are 2 riders. If you give them a leash, they're going to open up a really big gap, actually. I would definitely have a little bit of confidence if I were these 2, because Johan Noren is known for just being able to go all day long and loves these kind of breakaways. We'll see if he'll make this happen. Matthew de Kock is there as well, 6.3 watts per kilogram, trying to get back on turns, because that is a breakaway that may be able to form with 3. I would kind of want that third with me, Anna, for this juncture over to the bottom of the climb into the jungle.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking at the teams here. So Thomas Thrall races for Next Esport, presented by Insured. Now, you talked about pre-show Thomas Perrin being someone to look out for today, because he can get away on the grade. So is this a tactic here for Thomas Thrall? He's riding 8 watts per kg there, 583 watts to stay away. This could be a type of move, if there's any chance at all for Thomas Thrall to stay away, even on the grade, using his raw watts on the downhill and the flat to lead someone like Perrin into the final climb. Is this a tactic that they could even look at? Now we're looking at 11 seconds up with a group going off the front, though, that looks like they're desperately trying to get this. This is like breakaway formation in a Grand Tour race. This is amazing to see in game.
Yeah, a little bit of motivation, looks like, from the old school banjo man. Love to see and hear that as they come by that cabin. But looks like the catch on Johan Noren is going to be made. It's only 5 seconds up still. Do you think you were correct that this is about having a satellite rider up the road for someone like Perrin to make the juncture up to and then work together to get pulled into the final climb with a little bit of distance between the other main contenders on that climb? It would be absolutely perfect to have a guy like Thomas Thrall up the road. We'll see if that plays out, though, as they are starting to ramp things up. And with this ramp up that we just saw from Sebastian Havot just a moment ago, I have a feeling that this is all going to come back together on the bottom slopes here of the Jarvis Old School Classic course. Now, speaking to the low RPMs, it's all about power out here and what you can produce in that power. And being its own specific genre, we do hear about this a little bit. Well, nobody would ride like that here. Nobody would that there in different kinds of scenarios. But when it comes to just producing a lot of power, especially uphill, you do have a situation in real life where you see some riders who do a ton of standings. You know, I'm thinking back to Alberto Contador, who liked to, stand a ton, always up and out of the saddle. This is something now where you go indoors, and sometimes you can get into a situation where you can just make it feel like you're just always climbing, and you can make it feel. And if you feel that you can produce more power through just the pure climbing, and as well as trying to get as much out of that trainer and power as you possibly can, that is a style that you start to see now, especially for those who like to just have a long threshold type effort, right? And so Thomas Thrall, being a bigger guy, throwing down all that power, it's definitely something that's even being trained in esports, where riders are looking to see how they can train for that lower cadence.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good point, and that makes sense. And there's not aerodynamics, right? They don't have to worry about catching wind while they're up and standing out of the saddle, because they've just, it's virtual. There's not actual wind hitting them apart from their fans. So we're seeing another attack off the front end. This is a rider we saw last week, Devlin. Now remember, he was always kind of off the front and he never kind of got away. And I wonder if he will take that, what he learned last week, and it looks like he has learned the lesson of just riding a bit of a higher wattage here to really break that elastic and break away from the pack. Because if you remember, he'd sort of get to the front and he'd just increase the pack speed rather than breaking away. And it looks like he has managed to do that now. A really motivated group behind, though. See Ed Laverick there as well. And that group, of course he is. He'll be wanting to spice this up. Ollie Jones coming across too. This is just constant attacks and surges in pace. And this is not going to be suiting the climbers well. They will not be enjoying this one bit. They would prefer a nice, steady sort of ride up until when the climbs hit. And I think this is really going to hurt them as they come into what we're looking at as another dirt climb coming up. It's a dirty suppressor, I think it's called, Nathan. And this could be a part where we see fireworks as well.
Definitely. And we've got the dirty suppressor, definitely a place where we could have a little bit of a kick up through, because when they hit this dirt section, it's a little bit harder to keep the speed through there. It does slow the riders down. As soon as you start seeing dust kicked up from the wheels, you can see that the riders are going to maybe be able to get a little bit more of a gap on the others. So James Barnes now looking to go again. Next presented by Short. They definitely have a plan out here today. This is very calculated from them as he punches again into the suppressor. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a setup into the suppressor in just a moment. Ed Laverick looking to follow this. Now, as we get riders pushing up into 10 watts per kilogram or so, we actually had a little bit of a challenge with the GCN commentators to see if they could hold what Jason Osborne holds up and over the top of a KOM. Let's go ahead and take a look at that challenge. Little kick, 10 watts per kilogram. I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to respond to this. There it is, the world champion now.
3, 2, 1. And 35 seconds. Absolutely disgusting.
Well, I'm not sure how long Dan went for there, but I think he got pretty close. It looked like did a really well job. I mean, 10.1. Maybe he should be jumping in with these boys, Anna.
I don't think so. Oh my gosh, they look so painful. We just saw actually going up that slight rise, a feather drop, and I think that must have been a mistake. Everyone, they only have one feather to use for this entire race, and we've got some pretty big climbs coming up. Specifically speaking, the grade that is like hitting just a brick wall, and unfortunately that rider has detonated the feather a little too early. James Barnes off the front again with Ben Mayer chasing him down, and he's not quite getting the gap I think he would like. He's using the terrain to his advantage though. He knows he'll be a little bit better than these climbers on this descent, and it's going to -5 now. Now they're going to be taking that road to the sort of what I would call the foothills of the epic KOM, but they're not going to go up it at this stage. They're just going to go up that really steep first bit. Now, Nathan, I don't know how you find this climb. I find it really tricky to time. I've actually got some great one of our DSs, Jen Reel, in a race to get to the front, almost like you would see in real life on some of these classics we're seeing where a whole team will get a rider to the front to position well. Because it starts so steep, you need to be near the front, like we're seeing here with Sebastian Habit, again, attacking this group. And as long as you're near the front, you sort of can essentially ease off a little bit around the corners while the pack catches up. And then it goes into that, sort of 2%, 3% grade that is actually quite hard when you've got tired legs after the 10%. So what are we thinking heading into these foothills? Who will be looking to get ahead, knowing there'll also be a big descent coming?
Yeah, I have to agree with that 100%. If you start on the back foot on this climb and you don't actually put the kick up front into the really sharp end of the gradient, and then you're chasing back through the 3% over the bridge, you're actually burning way more matches. You put the work in up front on this climb with a little bit of a punch, make your way into that top 10 to 20, or even toward, I could even say, if you lead things out, you can fade the rest of it as the speed picks up. And as the speed picks up into the lower percentages, you can then grab the draft and use the other riders as they come over the top to almost, in quotes, rest as they go into more of a VO2 or threshold type effort rather than the extreme punch you'll see on the lower slopes. Now, this is interesting. They're not that interested in making this chase, it looks like. Now we do see James Barnes actually on the front, though, at 6.4. So he seems to be the workhorse out here for next presented by Insured. Maybe looking to go across as Thomas Thrall actually slows things down. You can see that in the rider nearby list. Thrall went to the front and did 3 watts per kilogram to just slow the pack down to try and allow Barnes to get a little bit of a gap. But Sebastian continuing on, he doesn't mind one bit. He wants this gap, and he's maybe hoping that over the top of the climb into the jungle, Sebastian may be hoping that there's going to be a jump across to him and a group might form on the downhill into the jungle, or that they come across right here. Now, if they do come across right here, it'll be an interesting one where how hard can they climb after making this juncture through this section? I mean, this is a really hard effort to be throwing down right before you hit those that first little bottom slopes of the Watopia Mountain Reverse KOM. Now, they will not be doing the entire KOM. We've got about a K, less than a K actually, until we hit that climb that we've been talking about. And they will do the first little, I would say, like 1/5 or so, or 1/6 of the Watopia Reverse KOM, and then they'll take a right-hand turn over the jungle. But they will be coming back to that section when they descend after the grade to do the last half that they skip, actually, as they make their way over toward the Mayan KOM. But Sebastian Havo now still off the front and about to have some company, it looks like, but the whole pack starting to ramp up, looking for position as they hit these lower slopes. I think this is most likely going to come back together. Maybe some riders whittling off the back with how hard this pace has been, though, Anna.
Yeah, exactly. And Sebastian Havo, I'm just looking at his stats. Now, his wheelhouse is the 5-minute power. So that was probably enough for him to get away, as we saw. So that would have been around sort of a 3-minute effort. So he's got a bit more left in him, but doesn't look like the sort of 20-minute long climb efforts are where it's at for him. So this climb may be a bit tricky as these others are coming up. Ed Laverick there, who was so aggressive last week, would have to get the most combative rider, as Havot just looks like he has stopped. Oh, that's James Barnes. Just looks like he has completely come to almost a stop there as the rest of them have gone past. Rob Devlin, really impressed with how he's riding today, actually, compared to last week. I just think he's really learnt the craft a bit better. He's moving away. He's leading this group around this tiny bit here where I see like it slightly flattens off, and that is really, relatively speaking here, not much at all, maybe 1% or 2. They'll take this right-hander as well up the top, and like we said, they'll get to a bridge section. This is where it'll calm down to sort of that 3% gradient, but you've got to keep the power on, as we're seeing Thomas Thrall just losing touch in that Canadian jersey, pulling up a little bit now. I thought he might have dropped there. And Barry as well, the Irish champion, also just kind of yo-yoing a bit there. Ed Laverick now moving to the front. Now we've got a rider who's managed to cross over. That looks like Ollie Jones, and the whole pack is bearing down on them. No one wants someone to get away before they hit this downhill into the jungle.
Next presented by Insured, they were looking to set up Richard Berry and Thomas Thrall maybe to go off the front, or at least set them up to still be involved toward the end of the race. You can see Duval there still sitting in. Thomas Perrin is going to still be in and amongst this. So they've been burning matches. They're using their riders early on here to make things as difficult as possible while their main climbers are sitting in. This is 100% a tactic to try and send Berry and Thrall off the front. It did not work, but it did cause some of the teams do the work while others from Next Presented by Insured were sitting in and waiting for the later half. You can see 3 jerseys, I think it is, from Next Presented by Insured, all hanging out right at the back of this main pack, not doing any work at all. The next ride, I would say, and the reality is they also have Daniel Turek here. I mean, they've got so many riders showing up today that can really throw down for the rest of the team. They are here to win today, and the numbers they still have, the tactic that they're playing out here today, it's telling me this is a setup to try and burn everybody else out. I really love what they're doing.
Yeah, this is amazing. We wondered if there would be some team action, and that is absolutely what's happening. So good to see. As the groups have come together, Thomas Thrall, again, I see him moving to the front, looking like they're going to attack over this little sort of false flat gradient. I actually find this part of the course really, really hard because your legs are burnt already from that push up we just had on those foothills. And now it's that 3% grade that you really have to push, and it is really hard, and it really feels like it goes on forever before you hit the downhill. But Arnie Jacobs here with Thomas Thrall on his wheel, Michael Kaminsky, people are not letting them get away, I've got to say. But if they could just get this group of sort of 3, 4, 5 working together, as we see Kaminsky moving, putting in a big effort there. They went up to about 8 watts per kg, but he's been caught again, but it is being strung out, and this is dangerous. Now, I do want to reiterate that, the likes of Josh Harris, he must get these bonus points. He has to get these bonus points at the next Mayan mountainside, and that happens really quickly after this descent. So he's got to be positioning well here. He won't be as strong as some of these guys on the descent. He needs to find some wheels, absolutely.
Beniza doing what he loves to do, making a counter up and over the top here. Usually a rider who does this early on, maybe saving a little bit more for a section that he thought perhaps there would be an opportunity. Now we see Ollie Jones making his way to the front as well. Still a large group, though. Plenty of riders still involved here, obviously. So no big breaks happening just as of yet. They're going to make their way downhill in just a moment here. And I have a feeling through this section, it's going to be very difficult to get away. But, with the way that these riders have been riding, they've been attacking nonstop. And there is a reality that on the downhills, if you slingshot and you snowball over and over and over again, you could get something going. I wonder if perhaps we're going to see some sort of a situation from maybe a team that's got a plan, I think, like Team Turbo could be doing something. They still got Chudik, Buffington, and obviously their main man, the current reigning national champion of the USA, Hayden Pucker, in there. I have a feeling we might see something from them. Plenty of other teams that have kept it quiet and let Next do a lot of the work out here, and maybe that's just setting up into the plans of some of the other teams.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm actually really interested to know as well, what is Abus Synergy going to do? They have 3 riders in the top 7. So we've got Jasper Paradians, he's leading. He's got to get some bonuses. He's got to get these to consolidate that lead. Then you've also got Ruben Dhondt, who we heard from, and he had, I love it how he said he had his head and his heart, like his heart tells him that, he should just go for it. And then his head's like, no, you got to settle it. And that looks like what he's doing. And then we've got Lennart Tugels, my head pick for today, to actually win. I mean, these guys must have something where they've got to take bonus points away from other teams. And I think that would be a perfect move for Ruben Dhondt. If he thinks he can't stay up on the epic climb, he's got to go for these next bonus points on the Mayan mountainside. 1, for his own result, but 2, to take them away from someone who might get them from Lennart Tugels. As we see Ruben Dhondt in picture. Now, I loved his pain face from last week. There's a few people who play it cool and you don't know if they're working hard. You knew he was working hard last week, right, Nathan?
Yeah, 100%. And it'll be interesting to see how Ruben goes today. I mean, is he going to have a crazy breakthrough ride? I mean, it'd be really great to see if he does. Sitting at the back, very comfortable. Look where his avatar is, playing it really smart. 131 beats per minute. Haven't really touched the front. So obviously the team working for him out here today. Nicely done. Now, we talked a lot about the intermediate points, and nothing has really happened with those as far as the overall goes now. So, are they all setting up for the Mayan or only thinking about the overall? Now, Richard Berry, again, Next Presented by Short, we talked about this. Is he going to try and make something happen? And with the moment you start seeing Michael Planthro start making moves like this, then the alarm bells go off, because Planthro is one who can ride away from the entire... You give him a leash and this might not be coming back. Now we do see a little bit of a response now coming in from Vidar Mail as well as Rob. Now, how much commitment is there going to be? You can get a good gap over this rope bridge that they're going to be hitting in just a moment and then accelerate over the top and continue on through the dirt. You do have to do a little bit of work through these dirt sections in order to keep the speed. So because of that, I think that's why we're starting to see some movement here from some breakaway, from riders who want to break away.
Yeah, I do like this. I actually saw Rob Devlin again trying to push up and make this break, but he couldn't quite detach from the group. So Plantero, though, as we see him on his bike in his garage, it looks like there. Looks like a sort of dentist's office, I've got to say, with that light up there. But he is off the front now, 2.7 seconds up with a downhill sort of coming. I'm not sure if he's going to make it before he gets to this bridge because there will be a huge amount of pack speed as they go down here. Now, this is a launch pad, though. This part is really hard. You can see this beautiful waterfall there as the backdrop, but we hit what is sort of like a 7-8% grade coming up out of this bridge. Perfect launch pad for someone, and it looks like we're seeing someone coming up the right-hand side. Who is that? Maybe Jason Osborne. Neil Fryett is also up there. Now, he is the one who performed so well last week. I do want to ask you, Nathan, on Neil Fryett, too hard today? Is this last climb, is it too hard for him?
Well, what's interesting to me is that he's kind of solo in this effort out here, right? Like there isn't a whole lot for him to rely on as far as teammates. And so I think that for Neil Fryett, he was hoping that the pack would bring back the group over the top of the Jarvis KOM and try, or at least before the Jarvis KOM, and be able to sprint for it. But with the reality of how that breakaway formed up front and that those points were stolen away, are we going to see that again? And then at that point, is it about him trying to hang on the climb, and then he's just moving down the overall, in my opinion, unless this guy has completely changed himself as far as a climber goes? You know, I mean, perhaps he's going to be able to hang on to the level and sprint up and over the top because, I mean, we're talking about, I think, a 10-minute effort, maybe a little less than that. That is a lot of time for how high the power is going to be put out here by some of these top riders. And the gradients are so sharp that you're not going to get a whole lot of draft over the top of that KOM, mountain KOM at the finish. So Neil Fryett really needs to be looking forward to this Mayan sprint and grab 10 points to make himself secure and then get somewhere within the top 10, within striking distance of anybody who has a really good day on the climb.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, Nathan. And I think this next points, bonus points area at the Mayan mountainside is what I think is going to launch some people to go and try and get an advantage on the grade, knowing that they'll have, you know, those pure climbers, I'll call them, the likes of Josh Harris, who will be amazing on that kind of gradient. But the Mayan mountainside and the Itza climb, similar to the volcano last week, they're draftable and you could still get away even if you're not necessarily a climber. If I'm Neil Fryett, I am trying to go for those bonus points, launching it from there, using it as a launch pad, getting ahead for the grade, and then, like you said, just aiming for a top 10 result and hoping that's enough. As we're seeing Adrian Alvarado moving off the front now with Richard Barry, the Irish champion who has been so active in these early stages of the race. As we are approaching almost the halfway point, knowing that most of the elevation comes in the second half of this race, and they haven't even been going 30 minutes. I mean, this is unreal how fast the first part of this race has been. And we're looking at 4 kilometers now to the bonus points. Now, what they'll be doing is they'll be sort of heading up this climb shortly. They'll go through the underground sort of glowworm caves, and they'll go into those, I still call them the new roads. They're some of my most favorite additions in Zwift, I've got to say. My favorite part of Zwift is the roads up to the Mayan mountainside. But these guys already 6-second gap on the group behind, and that group behind does not seem to be pushing the pace so much, although we see Arnie Jacobs now trying to make a move off the front, and that unfortunately is just not letting anybody get away. This is pure sort of break formation that we see in real life racing. They go, it kind of settles down, but then someone tries to jump, and that causes everyone to jump, which is exactly what we see in this bunch, don't we here, Nathan?
It is, and Adrian Alvarado as well as Richard Barry continuing on, and Neil Fryett in his head is thinking, please, at least I would be thinking, please, someone just jump. I'm not going to do anything. I have to just be patient. I can't waste any effort. Will someone please bring... But there's these other motivations that are in there where there's other riders in the overall who have a confidence in their climb. They're like, thank you. Go take those points. I'm here for the climb. And so all these different motivations, some who are like, yes, please go take the points away. Others who are like, no, please bring this back. And then you have other riders who are in the mix of all that thinking, okay, do I do some work? There's so many different ways that this could play out for the Mayan, and everything really, the Mayan KOM right here that we're about to enter, it's going to be a left-hand turn into that KOM. It is the most crucial section on course for the overall right now. After that, it's just about who wins the epic on the day first across the line, as well as the point spread for those first across the line points. So we're about to get in the most crucial section. It's all coming down to this right now for the Zwift Games overall on this Mayan KOM.
Yeah, and look who we're seeing moving into that top 4 position. Neil Fryett, he knows this is so crucial for him. Do just want to make a really sad call, actually, though, that James Barnes, I called it before when he was on those foothills of the epic, that he just seemed to stop, and he did. He had that Zwift mechanical that we all hate, the dropout. So he had a dropout, and he's now over a minute back. So unfortunate there for James Barnes because he was really lighting it up. But we are seeing here Sebastian Havet off the front with Neil Fryett on his wheel, just making that juncture. But they're just bringing the pack. No one is willing to let anybody go away here. And I'm keeping an eye on where is Josh Harris. We know he doesn't have any teammates out there. He has got to be near the front of this if he wants to win this one today and get his points up into that first position for the Zwift Games overall. So Josh Harris must get up. I'm seeing Lionel Villiers positioned very well as we're hitting the 3% grade. He's about third wheel, P3, P4 in this group, but Sebastian Havet still pushing huge watts off the front. You think he'd sort of calm down a little bit now that the group has caught him up. But Nathan, who are we looking at now? Who's going to launch off this?
I think at this point it's all about a lead out, because here's the reality of this Mayan KOM is that it's just a steady gradient at what you're seeing right now. You go into 3 to 4, then it does get into 5, 6, 7, 8 for a second, and then it completely levels out. It's essentially a 200 meter, 300 meter flat sprint that then gets into it's a KOM afterwards, and then you go into the grade. So you've got these 2 separate KOMs through this section that's just a steady uphill grind. And Led Laverick now says, look, I'm going to just set a high pace, it looks like, and see if I can whittle this down. Interesting move here. I thought maybe he'd be sitting in a little bit more, but he's looking to try, well, maybe this is about, come on, boys, let's try and ramp this up. Perhaps some of the riders are starting to feel it in the legs, and if they start rotating at the front, we might see some more of a break start to happen. Only 1.2 Ks to go here. Where's Neil Fryett? How is he sitting in? That's going to be the big question. Also, Jasper Paradine's still in here as well. Those two, it's going to be all about them battling it out perhaps, but some of the others in the overall, if this has been hard enough on them, the more punchier sprinters might be suffering a little bit where they might not be able to grab these, or might be able to grab some of these points away from Fryett and Paradine's.
Yeah, exactly. This group is, sticking together well, but there's a few that I saw Richard Barry there just really yo-yo off the back. I thought he was for sure going to get dropped. He's managed to make his way back into the pack. As we see Ollie Jones, great rider on these kind of ascents going up, as well as Andrew Buffington dropping the feather power up as well. This is a full-blown attack. He is going for the bonus points. This is a rider we have not talked about. Now, do you know him, Nathan, as we're coming into the last meters of this, and why he would be doing this?
Yeah, it's a turbo lead-out situation. Now Chudik is there as well. And we saw this in stage 1 where they were trying to lead out for Hayden Pucker. But where is Hayden Pucker? He's not actually there. So perhaps they're just trying to grab some points away. Thomas Thrall now, they're all under the orange numbers at this point. It's a complete, total all-in move from a lot of these riders here. We got Gobert there. Thrall is there as well. But Neil Fryett perfectly positioned with the feather power up at the last moments. Chudik is right on the wheel. Chudik looking to grab points away from Neil Fryett. Chudik is right on his wheel. 12 watts per kilogram from him. Fryett's now fading, it looks like. Oh, what's going to be happening between these two riders? It's going to be Fryett. No, Chudik over the top. Fryett's got the second kick. Neil Fryett's going to grab 10 points. No way is that going to happen. 14 points from the right to the left. He did it. Fryett grabs, gets the 10. That may be securing his Zwift Games overall, but is there going to be continuance? Now we've got a big question mark of how does this play out over the top of this, because who's going to be left and who's got the power to hang on over the top of the climb? Are they all going to sit up, or is a group going to form here? Because we got the world champion now coming over the top at 4 watts per kilogram, now starting to ramp up. He wants a group to start to come with him, it looks like, as Fryett now looks to grab back on. 162B sprint, is he recovering enough? Because if he can give it this group, this may be the Zwift Games overall happening right in front of us.
He has got to get on these wheels. I know he's hurt it. You can see in the picture he is struggling, but he's dropping too quickly. He has to start drafting these guys and get with this group. They are 7 seconds ahead now. They've dropped the likes of Lionel Vujasan. Hayden Pugger's back there. The leader, Jasper Paradinas, he's also back there. He is getting on. What an unbelievable effort from Neil Fryett. That was phenomenal. I just think the effort he put in to get there, and now he's got a tiny little bit of reprieve, and that it is straight uphill as we're seeing here. I think that's Thomas Thrall just spinning on the back and basically coming to a complete stop after that sprint. But back to the front of the race, Neil Fryett 10 points, Joe Chuduk 5, Thomas Gobert 3, Michael Kaminsky now going off the front at 6.3 watts a kg. And I've got to tell you who will not like that, Neil Fryett. But how is he doing this to be able to sprint at 14 watts per kg and then get onto this and then keep riding at 6? It is an unbelievable effort, right, Nathan?
It is an unbelievable effort. I mean, this is crazy as Kaminsky now goes to the front and tries to press the pace. Now, if there's anybody that you want, this is the group. But now there might be too many. They all start to look at each other and they can see that the group is being pulled back by Freddie Ovid and a few others. This is a make it or break it moment. Big group all together on this section as now Vujasan kicks off the front, 4.8 watts per kilogram, starts to maybe sense that the pack is sitting up, looking for reprieve onto the downhill now, using this downhill section to gain a little bit of speed. He's not going to actually work through here as he knows there's a snowball effect coming from behind. Now it's all back together. I thought maybe that was the moment, but nobody had the power any longer, it looked like. I think that sprint just took too much away from them. Now look at the overalls here. This is the live, so this is going to continually be jumping around a little bit off of the positions. But you saw just a second ago that Neil Fryett was at 329. Paradine's now at 330. So this will always be changing based on where people sit on this climb. And this will start to even out a little bit more as we hit the grade and those next sections for the climbing sections, where we'll really start to get an idea. But with that big jump in points, Neil Fryett may have done what he needs to do. You keep on seeing it changing where he's got that 329 over and over again. I think Fryett may, if he is able to hang on over these climbs and get a good top 10, top 5, not get beaten too badly by some of the other riders out here, he may have secured his Zwift Games overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're looking at these overall virtual rankings, which is a great graphic, to be honest, and you're seeing how much it's sort of shifting just with the bunch moving around, that shows how close it is at the top. And I think as we go into these climbs and it starts to string out, which I would imagine will have to happen with some of these gradients, we're going to be seeing, the grade is where people go and do their FTP tests now. It's 10% for most of it. It's just a big red brick wall that people are going to hit. And I'm really interested now to see how much of a burn Neil Fryett put into those legs and whether he will drop a little bit. We know that he will drop a little bit compared to these pure climbers. But by how much? Will he just drop a little bit, or will he completely blow and move out of the top 20? Now, that is going to be the massive difference here. Now, I'm trying to see if I can see Josh Harris in this group. I haven't seen him sort of pop up. I assume he's there. That's the one we're watching on the climb too. But just seeing how well Lionel Vujasan moved across to bridge that gap and get on. He is highly motivated. He didn't get those bonus points, which he'll be a bit gutted about, but the sprinters just took that over. I think he's looking good heading into this grade climb. So only 16.3 kilometers to go, but we know we've got 2 huge climbs along the way. Was something I wanted to talk to you about though, Nathan, was is there an option here that someone would use their feather? We saw a few feathers go already, but would someone use their feather over the top of the grade to get a little bit of a gap to then super tuck into the descent and try and stretch out the gap and use that going into the epic, knowing though that they're already going to use a feather?
Hayden Pucker. Right? Like, probably the heaviest rider amongst all of them here. If he can make it over the top of the grade with a small group or by himself, probably not by himself, but if he's with the group, and he's toward the front and uses that feather and then jumps to the downhill. We saw him annihilate, some of these riders actually through a downhill attack. Adrian Alvarado, love what I'm seeing from him as we head into the It's Okay OM. They're going to come over the top of this and then into a little bit of a downhill and then one more little punch. And then he's looking toward the grade, maybe looking to get some gap for himself, though, prior to the grade because of the reality of how hard they are going to climb over the top of that. I like what he's doing here because I think this is his best bet, most likely. So there are 32 riders, I believe it is, in and amongst the main field, or 33, excuse me, in and amongst the main field at this point. And with 8 seconds, he is going to get a good little bit of a gap. But I have a feeling they're going to punch again before the actual It's a KOM and banner in just a moment and maybe bring this right on back. Josh Harris is here. He has made it to this point. Now, for the overall, is he still involved, though, after that big points grab from Neil Fryett? Fryett's going to have to really fade in order for him to be able to take an overall out here today. But maybe on the day, is the day for Josh Harris to win for first across the line? Oh, man, my heart really is wanting that one.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. I do want to mention again Thomas Perrin, who I saw has also made this front pack. He was third last year in the Epic. Now, that was a different kind of a course, more punchy climbs, but that is someone to watch. And we saw how hard his team was working in those early stages to make it super attritional, which I think will suit him. And when we saw Thomas Thrall basically just, his avatar clambering all over his handlebars after that sprint, he'll be way back now, just hoping to get to the end of this race. But Alvarado here, moving not too much ahead. I'd say it's sort of a little bit of a Shasper attack here, just 4 seconds. They're sort of letting him hover. I think everyone is trying to save as much energy as humanly possible to get through this grade part. Now, it isn't the full grade climb. It is only the second portion of it. So it's not that sort of straight drag. It's all the twisty turns, I would say, going up to the top. I personally actually really like it. You get up out of the saddle, you focus on each turn. You say okay, just get to this turn. Okay, now just get to the next one. Just get to the next one. And it sort of goes relatively quickly, but knowing how hard these guys have been going, the legs will be screaming. And they're heading into a little bit of a descent here. And we've only got 14.5K to go. I think it's going to be going pretty hard right from as soon as they hit that 10% gradient. Do you think, Nathan, someone will just launch it straight from the beginning?
Yes, 100%. I think that there's going to be someone who says the grade is where we make it. We're about to take the left-hand turn. Alvarado's got 6 seconds. I think that's going to disappear real quickly. And my feeling is that the race is going to be decided right here, right now. Some of the riders might make me eat my words in a little bit here, but I have a feeling anybody who's looking to get rid of Neil Fryett and try and get a better overall wants to completely break him right here and make him go way backwards. So right here, right now, look at it. There it is. This is the moment the next presented by Insured was setting up for. Perrin just goes to the front and sets at 8 watts per kilogram. I have a feeling we're going to see that all the way to the top.
Yeah, now, was this a rider that you'd mentioned? He just does this on the grade. He can move to the front and just break away from people. I think this may be a sort of a highly motivated group who'll stay with him, and we're not seeing a huge amount of gap between them, though, as we see Alvarado caught and drop literally like a stone off the back of how fast these guys are going. But Thomas Perrin, so this was someone I was really interested to watch as to how they approached it. He can see him in the picture-in-picture looking so similar actually to his avatar. Up out of the saddle there, his avatar goes going 74 RPM. So actually really pretty good cadence for this climb as it hits 8%. I've seen people sort of hit 55 RPM at this stage. They're going under this banner. Now you'll see them go over on the road here, just the sign that says 7. So all the way up the grade, it goes up to 10. So this is what I mean by they're in the second half of the grade. So they've hit 7. They're going to have 8, 9, 10. Again, a really nice thing on the road for you to kind of focus in on and focus your hurt, basically. So look at it and go, okay, just get to number 8 now. Okay, then get to number 9. I'm almost there. I'm at 9. So it's really great motivation. But as we're seeing this pack really thin out, the cream is coming to the top. Ollie Jones, Lionel Vujasan, and Leonard Tugels. Now, he was my head pick. He is right up there. And who is also there? Ruben Dhondt. And we can see there on the virtual rankings sitting in 3rd as he moves up with Jason Osborne there. Josh Harris just sort of dropping off the pace here. We're not seeing him in the top 10. May not be his day.
Looking through now at the front, Jason Osborne starting to make moves. Lionel Vayasin now right on that. And Osborne seeing that initial check. Now going up and over the top of it. Tugels now following. Kaminsky there as well. Freddie Ovitt. Now we're starting to see the names we were talking about for the pure climbers making their way to the front. Jasper Paradines, is he right on the wheel there? Is that going to be a teammate situation? I don't know. I'm looking for Paradines. I think Paradines might have fallen himself off the back though at this point as I look through. Not involved at the front any longer, but he's still holding on to a virtual overall at this point. They're going to have to break him a little bit more and get some more distance. But Vayasin now moving up in the virtual overall rankings as he sits in that second place right here, second wheel, but also second place virtually overall. Neil Fryett is right there as well with, but is he falling off? Watch as the breaks start to happen, as they start to split people off and start to work together to try and get their Zwift Games overalls to start being a reality. Paradine's able to hold on. He's still there. I can't believe this is crazy from Jasper at this point. I can't believe he's able to hang on to this. And now it's going to be a race of attrition for Neil Fryett because this is off the back. He has not been able to make this main group just yet. Will he be able to come across as he is outside of this top 10 right now? Neil Fryett needs to really do some work to get back at this point, but they're going to be all in to try and split this as Jason Osborne continues on at the front.
That is unreal there from Jason Osborne, just setting such a scorching pace. Now, it is Jasper Paradines actually in fourth wheel. So he's P4, right next to Lionel Vujasan, but he is in his beautiful white and gold Zwift Games overall leader jersey. So he's got the gold shorts, the white jersey with the sort of gold Zwift logo on the back. So that's why he's not in his Abus Synergy kit that we're used to seeing him in. So Jasper Paradines still sitting there in P4, and that puts him in the overall lead by quite a few points, 4 points over Neil Fryett. These are great graphics to have here live on screen. Lionel Vujasan with this effort on the front is moving into that third position at 323 points. And Ruben Dhondt, great work here as he drops his feather power up. He is in P5, dropping that power up to desperately try and stay in contention over the top. As we see in the picture, Jason Osborne, he actually looks fairly calm, I've got to say. He's almost sort of running on the pedals. He's just got a really good rhythm there, moving a little bit back and forth. He's got a laptop set up there, but looking at a big TV screen, I think we can see, and he'll be so happy with how this is playing out up the front with a very, very select group that he can use on the downhill for a little bit of recovery.
Exactly what he was looking for, I think. And now Paradines fading off the back. Osborne trying to break him, it looks like to me. And Paradines actually used his feather power up on that climb to try and hang on, as well as Ruben Dhondt. Ruben Dhondt used his feather power up as well as they come up and over the grade. It is going to be a group at this point of 5 riders. Freddie Ovitt, it looks like Ruben Dhondt, Jason Osborne, Michael Kaminsky, Lionel Vujasan, and they've dropped Paradines. Now Paradines is going to be all about whether or not he can get back on terms and hang on to this group. But there's going to be plenty of motivation to send him out the back. And here's the big question for Paradines at this point, is that if he works, he's going to waste a lot of matches in order to try and hang on to this group where maybe he could go back to some chasers to bring these back. But these riders are going to be so motivated. There is a big decision point right now as to whether or not Paradines gets into over and over super tucks and uses some sort of energy to get back on terms with these front riders who are doing 60 kilometers per hour downhill. And it looks like, are they working together to keep this gap? Because whether or not you see them coming over the top and doing super tucks with some big punches is going to tell you everything. It looks like they're going to be doing that. This may be gone with these 5 riders.
They are absolutely working together. You see Ruben Dhondt. Oh my God, Ruben Dhondt. What a performance. Unbelievable. He is ahead of his teammate Lennart Tugels, who I thought he would be behind. He is having an unbelievable breakout performance here from Ruben Dhondt. All heart. Maybe that's what he said. You know, we saw him in the interview at the start. Should he race with his heart or his head? This is pure heart. Look at him in that picture-in-picture. The effort, and he is on a downhill. This is usually where we all, you know, us mere mortals, do that grade climb and use this as a real nice recovery, barely kind of spinning. They are pushing so hard all the way down. The reason they're doing that is you can see Ricardo Panizia just behind them, 13, 14 seconds. Jasper Paradines, he is with that group. He has been caught by that chase pack, and it's almost so devastating for Jasper there because he was so close. It literally was the last 500 meters where he just dropped off the back, and he must be looking going, this gap is just getting bigger and bigger, and I could have been there. He could have had this recovery, but it was so good of him to get to the point on the climb. If he could have just held on an extra couple of 100 meters, he would be with this group.
27 seconds back at this point, Neil Fryett. Still fourth overall at 322 points, but 27 seconds back. He's doing big jumps. He's got Thomas Perrin. Hayden Pucker is a really good person to have with him. He's got Hayden Pucker with him as well. So they're on the chase, and they're trying to bring something back. But even if they bring some of this time back, they're going to hit the bottom, and it's going to be a full-on TT along the cliffside right into another climb that's 10 minutes long. I mean, if you've already been dropped once on a climb, and now we've got the big climb of the day coming up still, it might be a losing game for the reality of Neil Fryett, whereas I think Jasper for the overall is set up still to at least try and hold on to something. Now Neil, as you can see, starting to move his way forward. So this is about how much can he kill the damage that's been done already. And he is doing it. He's little by little bringing things back. And if people start coming back to him who have gone way over their limit and he outclimbs them on the final climb, he could still win the overall by killing the damage that's been done. This is getting really interesting because this main group, yes, it's for the first across the line for the day, but it's kind of out of their hands in some ways, other than beating these other riders for more points right here. It's a little bit out of their hands because what's happening behind is more about how many people Neil Fryett and Jasper Paradines are able to catch as they drop like flies.
I've got to say, Nathan, this is super interesting because I'm watching this overall virtual rankings, and it is basically between Ruben Dhondt and Neil Fryett a lot of the time. That's where it's switching around a lot. And Ruben Dhondt knows that if he can get near the front of this group, and he will just hope that Neil Fryett will drop a few places behind on the next climb, Ruben Dhondt could win this. He could take over the lead. The problem is, though, that Jasper Paradines is also in this situation, and how will Jasper climb on the next climb? So we're not sure. He dropped on that one. Will he drop a few more places with the group he's in? We can see Lennart Tugel's in his group. We can see Ricardo Panizar, who is going to drop a little bit for Jasper Paradines to come up. So this is becoming very, very interesting, like you said, Nathan, and it's Ruben Dhondt's to lose. He must know. He will have a DS who can see those overall virtual rankings and be working it out as well and know you have got to stay with this group on the climb and hope that a couple of the other riders drop. Neil Fryett, what an absolute legend for pushing so hard to get those bonus points. Now, if he had just been able to get ahead and get on the wheel of the likes of James Barnes for the first bonus points that we saw right at the beginning in Jarvis Island, this would be a different story. He could have wrapped it up. I mean, he must be looking back at that section of the race and just thinking, oh, if I just got onto that little break.
The freight train that is Hayden Pucker is working for his fellow American. That's what's happening here. We saw it at Worlds, actually, a very similar situation. Look at this. That's what's going on. Hayden Pucker is going full gas at this point to try and make the catch for himself, but there's also a reality that he's got a fellow American. Now, this isn't working out that great because he didn't grab the wheel necessarily. They're not going to be in comms too well, but I have a feeling that there was a little bit of, all right, we're buddies. We're from the same country here. Let's bring this back. And Pucker is on a mission. This is Freight Train Farm Watts. I mean, the tractor is then set on fire at this point and just going afterburners. Loving what I'm seeing here from Hayden Pucker. Fryett now grabbing another wheel, bringing lots of points back. But now the question mark is, what does he have against this pack? Because what he does against this pack on this climb is going to be everything for his overall, but he has put himself back into contention easily for the overall battle.
I know, but will he be able to hold it with this group on the climb? Who have we forgot here? I mean, I think I just saw Josh Harris. So he's sitting there in his aero kit. He's in this group. He must go ahead of Neil Fryett on this climb. This is a tough climb coming up. It is the epic and it's the steep side. So they've just come down what I would call the sort of the more gradual side, if you could call it that. But the steep side, it's sort of three steps, I would say. And each step is quite hard, 8 to 10%. But then you've got little downhills. So it's not like the volcano last week where it was sort of flat. There's little downhills on the way up where you can micro recover, or you can also drop into a super tuck and get a little bit of a gap and a bit of momentum heading into the next one. So it's not so much, a settle in like we saw with the grade. There are opportunities here for the likes of Neil Fryett to potentially, push them like a bit of a 1 minute effort and really recover on the downs. I'm thinking he's got a really good chance here. Could be his kind of a race. And look at him, just sitting in the back, recovering, taking it easy, letting the others do the work. What do you think? Will he be able to do this, Nathan? I'm so excited thinking about it.
I mean, everything's worked out for him besides that first Jarvis KOM. Really, it has. At this point, he's done everything he needs to be in the right position. Now he just has to execute on the climb. Essentially, Neil Fryett has to have the best climb of his life, have a breakthrough performance. Hopefully he's been putting the sugar in at this point because he can definitely do this. Now, depending on how well Ruben Dhondt finishes that, Ruben Dhondt's in the lead group. This is the second group. It's only 18 seconds back. They're not bringing back that front group, though, at this point. Ruben Dhondt, Lion Vias, and Jason Osborne, Michael Kaminsky, Freddie Ovett, they're at the front. And Dhondt, if Dhondt has the ride of his life then, right? Like there's a whole nother situation going on here where it's like one rider up front here trying to have a breakthrough performance to put himself at the pinnacle of esports essentially. Can he beat the world champion on the day? It would be absolutely insane. But if he's able to pull this off and Neil Fryett falls too far back in that pack, Ruben Dhondt wins overall. I mean, and now you see Josh Harris starting to get involved. In fourth overall now at this point. Josh Harris is in that second group. What if Josh Harris starts saying, look, I've saved everything and I've got everything for this final climb, and starts picking people off, and now he's involved. Such an awesome last climb to decide the Zwift Games overall champion as well as the Epic Championship on the day. But Jason Osborne doing Osborne things. This might be the move that seals the deal because he's going to look to just ride away from everybody.
Yeah, we saw this on the grade, didn't we? He just moved to the front as soon as the gradients got hard, and that's what he's doing. And the chase pack behind, which I believe this is, we are seeing sort of them sticking together. They're not moving ahead. We're keeping an eye on Neil Fryett. We're also seeing Martin Mertens there leading this chase pack. Now, this is his last professional race, so good on him for being in that chase pack. He's putting it all out there for his last one. We're seeing now Jasper Paradians has moved into overall virtual rankings. These are provisional, keep in mind. On the road, Jasper Paradians. Now, he has been a master at how to keep his points ahead of everybody else when he may not even be in the lead groups. And when we haven't really seen him in too many of the showdowns, we haven't seen him winning these races, but he has been unbelievable at the maths behind this, about keeping ahead exactly where he needs to be. But look how close that is between him and Ruben and Neil Fryett here. It's 2 points in it between these guys. Like you said, Nathan, it couldn't come down to a better finale on this Epic Championship than with these guys going as they are now. As Jason Osborne, he is in the lead. This is the chase pack. Neil Fryett just kind of staying at the head of this chase pack. Like I said, it's if you can just motivate yourself to get through these hard 10% grades and then use that downhill recovery on the step climb. There's about 3 of those little downhills you can use. And remember, the last around 800 meters is flat with a bit of downhill to the banner. Jason Osborne, though, here in camera, he is broken away. It looks like, unless anything goes wrong, he will be the one who will win this queen stage of the Zwift Games. But what is going to be happening behind him? That is the big question.
Yeah, Osborne made his move, and game over is what it looks like. I mean, you can't go past him. He was messaging me a little bit that actually in the last couple of weeks saying, oh, I just want a really hard course. I just want to be able to use my talent. And now he is doing it. 10 seconds opened up immediately on these lower slopes. This is why he is the world champion. He's got this kind of power in his legs at the end of big efforts. Everybody else tiring out, and he goes to the front. He kicks a 10.9, 8 watts per kilogram for a little while, and everybody goes, enough is enough. I can't follow that. We got to race our own race because this guy's just beyond us. Freddie Ovett now dropping off at trying to follow that. So now we're down to 4 riders, and with Ovik going backwards, that gives some more points perhaps if he's not able to outsprint that second group or outclimb that second group. Now a little bit of hope is coming more so into the legs, into the mind, into the heart of Neil Fryett and Jasper Paradigms behind now as that battle is starting to play. Oh, where is he alone? Did Fryett get dropped? Fryett tried to hold on, and now it looks like perhaps, no, he's just getting back on terms with Hayden Pucker, it looks like. I'm going to have to use the dashboard if you're looking to try and follow everything. The dashboard's going to give you everything that you need to know, and Fryett has actually dropped off that main pack, actually, and this may be sealing the deal, actually, for Jasper Paradigms, but now Paradigms versus Ruben Dhondt and Lion Vyasen is the situation, as he needs to move forward. Fryett's still trying to hang on. It's a 1-point difference. This is insanity.
And I've got to say, Lionel Vujasan, he pulled ahead of the group behind that have been chasing Osborne, and look at him now. He is tied in the lead. It's a 3-way tie. 324 points between Lionel Vujasan, Ruben Dhondt, and Neil Fryett. Unreal, as we see Jasper Paradigms just drop off, and like you said, Neil Fryett potentially kind of coming back now. 323 points. These guys, look at these heart rates. 187 there from Jasper Paradigms, desperately trying to stay in this podium position. Lionel Vujasan, amazing here, coming ahead into 324, and Dhondt, I would say the heart racer of the day, is sticking to Lionel Vujasan like glue, trying to match him what for what, but he has just fallen back about 2 seconds. They don't have long to go, 2.4 kilometers. If Ruben Dhondt can just stay as near enough to this wheel as possible and not have Michael Kaminsky, where has he come from? Michael Kaminsky coming up on Ruben Dhondt. Ruben Dhondt has to stay away, but look at that pain face that he is showing. He is putting absolutely every single ounce of energy through those pedals to be able to stay ahead, because he knows this is it. This is his Zwift Games performance on the line, and Michael Kaminsky desperately trying to get back onto his wheel.
His teammate Leonard Tugels is coming, and I mean, does Tugels overtake him? Big question, right? Or does he look? And now Dhondt, now getting into looking to reserve a little bit here, getting into the super tuck, because this is the final kick up to the finish line. Vyasen has not have a big win like this in a really long time, honestly. If Lionel Vyasen takes Zwift Games overall, this will be a stamp on his 2024-25. This last year for this season. I think he's been looking for a big win for quite a while. It's so great to see one of the biggest OGs of the sport at the front now of the Zwift Games overall. Jason Osborne is gone. He's going to win this FAL. He's got this solid. At this point, Vyasen, depending on what Neil Fryett does behind, depending on, with Jason Osborne, whether or not because Fryett's moving his way forward still. Fryett can still make this happen, but I love to see it. Vyasen is making it happen here. He's breaking everybody else. He's being consistent. Dhondt's trying to bring it back. It's a 5-second difference. So now in my head, for the Zwift Games overall, we're looking at Paradigms versus Dhondt versus Vyasen versus Fryett. That's kind of where things have settled down at this point, unless Josh Harris starts sneaking up the overall, as we now see him make his way up into 5th. See, this is going to be a big, but that's your main contenders now at this point. It's all about the bodies in between them. Look at Fryett battling with these other riders that he's caught now at this point. He has to beat them at a minimum or to keep catching. He still can keep picking people off. Neil Fryett is not out of this as he moves his way up into 15th. Can he catch Jasper? He's only a little ways up. His main contender is right ahead of him. He's in the next group, but that's a lot of landscape to make up.
Yeah, and he got the gain there on that downhill. He got the super tuck like we saw, and he passed about 5 riders during that super tuck, and then it went uphill, and they just started to catch him again. So I'm not sure Neil Fryett is going to be able to stay ahead of that group. Kind of dropping down a little bit now. He got to first place virtual rankings when he did that downhill super tuck and kind of dropped down again here. Ruben Dhondt up into second. Lionel Vujasan still winning this on the road virtually, provisionally. keep in mind, Jason Osborne, he is leading the race by 33 seconds. So Jason Osborne is having an amazing day in the saddle. He is leading this epic climb. So he is going to win this, but it is the race within the race of who is going to actually win the Zwift Games Championship and take the 2025 title. Ruben Dhondt here, he has been somewhat caught. He's caught Lionel Vujasan. So, this is so hard. These two, I think I saw Lionel drop the feather to make the little move here, and it's unbelievable that Ruben has just trucked his way back up. The amount of pain he looks in, I thought when Lionel made the move that he would just mentally stagger and drop off. But look at this. Wheel to wheel, these two are going to be sprinting out for the line. Remember, it goes up this gradient around 7% and then it starts to flatten out, and it will be a sprint if they can do it. A very hard sprint, maybe a very slow sprint on these dead legs to get to the line. But it is so close, and Neil Fryett doing better than I thought, staying up there on that second wheel in that chase group. Here's Jason Osborne, though. He's 595 meters to go. He's just cresting the climb, and he'll hit this flat bit, which I'm sure he'll be looking forward to. Snowing here at the top. What an amazing race from Jason Osborne.
Osborne, the reigning world champion, going to take this one down, making it look almost easy up and over the top of the Watopia reverse mountain KOM. Behind, I saw Ruben Dhondt make a massive effort to catch back Lionel Vujasan on the flatter sections through that cabin section, and now they're together. Vujasan, is he just playing it cool at this point? He definitely has a poker face behind there, as whether or not that's real, because Dhondt does have a good kick on him. I'm not sure he's going to be able to hang on, though, if Vujasan does make a big kick. They both have used their feather, I believe, but now it's going to be Osborne taking it down, first across the line, your epic champion on the day. What a ride from Jason Osborne, proving he still is that world champion in esports and has it on a massive day today. Great job to Jason Osborne. Big win for him. But now the Zwift Games overall is in the, oh my gosh, caught by Kaminsky as they come over the top. It's all about the sprint here at this point.
Michael Kaminsky, where has he appeared from? It was these two, and then suddenly Kaminsky turns up, and they will not want him here, because if he gets ahead and takes those extra few points, that is not good for these two riders, as we're seeing the effect of that as Neil Fryett is sitting in the virtual lead again by 2 points. They must get ahead of Michael Kaminsky. What is happening here, Nathan? He is ruining this for these two riders who need these points.
Oh no, and it looks like Vujasan might have went too late. I think Vujasan went way too late with a downhill sprint. He got caught out by Ruben Dhondt, and Ruben Dhondt is going to take this. Kaminsky actually stealing points perhaps from his teammate. What just happened? I can't believe Kaminsky just did that. It was supposed to be a lead up, but I think the communication was not there, and Dhondt may be able to take this down, but Neil Fryett, he does the impossible. It looks like he's out climbing everyone at this point amongst that group. Where is this coming from Neil Fryett? Is he going to make this happen by 2 points? Neil Fryett, your Zwift Games champion with the climb of his life. He just has to hold on to the line now.
This is unbelievable from Neil Fryett. What an amazing rider, considering not long ago he was racing at 14 watts per kg on that Mayan mountainside bonus points, and here he is. It looks like provisionally he is 2 points ahead of second place Ruben Dhondt. Neil Fryett looks to have taken the Zwift Games 2025 title. Wow, chapeau, what a ride.
That is insane. He caught Paradigms. He caught Perrin. He were there people working for it? Like Hayden Pucker did work for him. It looked like there was a little bit of an American handshake going on, perhaps, but he saved enough. It looks like for the second half of that climb, it looked like he was completely out of it, and then made the juncture to that next group, caught Paradigms, caught, it looked like Perrin, was able to go by, caught Adrian Le Griffin, and then sealed the deal solo up and over the top there to take your Zwift Games Championship. Tactically, too, so astute. You can't go by this guy. When you take him to any of those sprints, it's just game over. So cool to see.
Yeah, he has played this so well with his bonus points and what he has done there. I have seen a comment come through, the YouTubers going crazy. As we see here, the winner on the road, Jason Osborne. Second, Michael Kaminsky. Third, Ruben Dhondt. Wow, what a performance. Fourth, Lionel Vujasan. Fifth was Lennart Tugels. Sixth, Freddie Overt. Seventh, Ricardo Penizar. 8th, Michael Plantero. 9th, Nicky Hoog. And 10th, Johan Norén. But wow, the points that came to in the end for the overall. I'm really interested to know your thoughts there, Nathan, on why Michael Kaminsky moved ahead of that group. If he'd just got in between Lionel Vujasan and Ruben Dhondt, that could have been Lionel's race. He could have won the overall.
I mean, $2,000 is a pretty cool motivation, perhaps. I mean, there's the reality that up at the top there was 3, 2, and 1, right? I mean, so that perhaps, and also the reality that the difference maker for Vujasan, I mean, wow, that's a big question mark there a little bit. But, you know, there are handshakes that happen, and then there's, look, it's all every man for himself when it comes to a finish line like that sometimes, especially with big prize money. And I know between a lot of the teams, there's conversations that go on in the background saying, hey, we're going to do everything we can for the intermediates. But once we get into that final climb, man for himself to try and take what they're looking for on the day, perhaps. So I think I have a feeling that may have happened as Michael Kaminsky grabbed that, or maybe it was a lead out. So, all right, well, let's go back to the studio to have a chat about everything we just saw.
We are going to have a very long chat, Nathan. Don't you worry about that. Partly because there's a lot to chat about, and also partly because those riders just went very quickly over the course compared to what we were predicting for Stage 5, the Epic Championship final there. My word, what did we just witness? I mean, looking at the overall standings virtually on the graphic there was a point where 4 riders had exactly the same number of points based on what they picked up in the first 4 stages, what they picked up in the intermediate sprints today, and where they were lying out there on the road. I'm going to come to you first, Anna. Did that play out the way that you were expecting it to?
I did not expect it to be that close. That was unreal. I feel like I've been sitting on the edge of my seat for the last sort of 20 minutes at least. When we went through those bonus points, I did not expect either that Neil Fryett would have put everything on the line on those bonuses and still be in contention on that climb. I actually don't know how someone can keep a heart rate that high for so long. It was so unbelievable. And seeing Josh Osborne as well, we kind of forgot about him a little bit because we were so intense on what those points were. But what an unbelievable climb from him as well. Really came into his own. We saw the performance on the grade. He just got ahead and he looked really good, but he didn't want to break away. He needed that group with him on the descent. And then that climb up the Epic, wow, amazing. Just these performances have blown my mind. Yeah,
a lot to talk through, as I mentioned just a minute ago. But let's focus on the winner of the Epic Championships, the first rider across the line today, Nathan. He's the world champion in esports, and he has been multiple times, Jason Osborne. Rode for Alpecin de Koning on the road for a couple of years as well, but he's finished that for the time being at least. He was, let's make no bones about it, he was in a class of his own when it came to that final climb today. And based on what I heard you saying in commentary, you were kind of expecting that.
Yeah, I was, because this is a rider who's looking for a course that's just difficult. You know, the comparison to in real life would be a Pogacar. He just wants the course to be as hard as it possibly can so that he can just get to work and do what he is good at. Putting massive power into the pedals and breaking everyone when you can't sit in his draft any longer. So that's exactly what we saw here from Jason Osborne. After a few intermediate sprints, after going over the grade, putting a little bit of fatigue into everybody else's legs, the guy just has an FTP that's way beyond everybody else on course. And some of the riders that know him well, they kind of looked at it and were like, yep, that's the move. We can't respond to that. And those who tried responding, I think they paid for it.
Well, certainly Jasper Paradine seemed to pay for his earlier efforts on the grade climb in particular, so we'll get onto that a little bit later on. The power numbers that Jason Osborne, the world champion, was putting out were making me wince. I was thinking there's no way he can carry this on all the way to the finish line. But he did, and he was the most convincing winner we've had in all 5 stages of the Zwift Games this year. And I believe we are able to talk to him now, if he's managed to catch his breath. I think we've got a connection with him. Congratulations, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great stuff. Yeah, congratulations on such a dominant win there in the Stage 5 final. Nathan said that he'd been messaging you throughout this week and you were just looking forward to having a much harder course to use your power to good effect. Is exactly what you did today. Did that go as you'd planned it?
Yeah, well, basically the course was way better for me. Like the other courses, it was like more like raft and climbs. Everyone basically can survive over them. So this course, like I was really looking forward to.
And in terms of
just to play my strengths.
Sorry for interrupting. In terms of the numbers that you were putting out, I just said that they made me wince looking at a constant over 500 watts on the last climb, only until you realised that you were so far ahead that you could relax slightly, and then you went down to something like 480. What were the numbers like today compared to what you were expecting to do?
Well, basically I tried to aim for 7 watts per kilo. Already tried to make it hard on the first steep plan, the 5-minute one. I think we made a good group there, and then tried to push on the last long climb.
Yeah, and you didn't even really have to worry about all the shenanigans going on behind you with the overall Zwift Games Championship on the line. Talking about the overall Zwift Games Championship, was there any sense of frustration from yourself over those first 4 stages, not being able to show your true form and power?
A little bit, yeah, I have to say. First stage, obviously not. It's a sprint stage. Second stage was called the Climb Championship. However, I found it more to be like a sprint climbers championship. So, like, basically the climbs were not hard enough, and then it was just a sprint. So I would have wished for a bit harder stage in the second one.
I'm not sure I do, and I only say that because based on what I've seen from you today, I'm not sure anybody else would have had a chance in the overall classification if the other stages had been as hard as today's one, but I take your point. Could you talk to us a little bit about your experience in the World Tour over the last couple of years with Alpecin? I mean, because I knew your background in esports and the power you were putting out, I was keeping a close eye on your results, and you picked up some fairly decent results over those couple of years.
Yeah, like I spent a few years on the World Tour with Alpecin. Must say I enjoyed my time there. Yeah, and like got some good results. So I think I can be happy with my time with Alpecin, but now I'm enjoying in this different kind of scheme in cycling, which is like esports and gravel.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing your results on the gravel as well. One more time, huge congratulations, Jason. That was unbelievably impressive from my point of view. And I've no doubt we'll be speaking again soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jason. Yes, a dominant winner of the Epic Championship, Stage 5, the 5th and final stage of the Zwift Games 2025, which the elite women will be taking on fairly shortly. But first up, we're going to carry on talking about the men's, because it wasn't just the championship up for grabs today in terms of the Epic. There's also the overall Zwift Games Championships as well. I'm not sure if we've got the overall classification confirmed just yet, but if it is, we can bring it up. There it is. What an unbelievable ride from Neil Fryett there. 326 points in the end after picking off a few riders on that final climb to the finish. A newcomer to esports, Ruben Dhondt, in second place on 324. So even if he'd got in front of Kaminsky there at the finish, it wouldn't have taken him the overall title. Vuyasin, who was himself up there with a chance of taking the overall games, I think he can still be satisfied with third, launching up himself a couple of places on that final stage. Osborne up to fourth, then Josh Harris, who might be a little bit disappointed with his performance today. Jasper Paradines, who started this stage in first overall, having been leading pretty much from the very first stage of this Zwift Games, he blew up towards the end and fell to 6th place. Then it's Lennart Turgels, Kaminsky second on the day, 8th in the overall classification, Nicky Hug in 9th, and Freddie Ovets, who made that front elite group but then paid for the efforts towards the end, picking up 10th place overall in this Zwift Games. A reminder that he was the overall winner this time last year. So there's your top 10 in the men's at the end of the Zwift Games 2025. I'm not sure if we can get Neil Fryett on the line just yet, but if not, I'll try and have another word with Nathan and Anna ahead of the women's race that's coming up a little bit later on. Have we still got them on the line? There we go. So speaking to Jason Osborne there, you expected him to win, Nathan. He won very comfortably indeed. But looking at the overall classification there, what are your takeaways from that top 10?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, one thing that is a little bit of an upset is Leonard Tugels, Freddie Ovett, you know, not having the absolute, probably not satisfied with the end result. You know, I think that the reality of how important the intermediate points were in stage 1, in stage 2, might be coming back to go, oh, maybe we should have focused a little bit more on those or set up for those. They were very difficult courses to get right. And if you don't necessarily do a lot of recon, get involved in some sprints, know the current pack dynamics in and out about how to jump specifically, like what we've seen with Mary-Kate McCarthy, her domination in a lot of times in the women's side of things is because she is so savvy about when to go, how to go, and then she's got the kick to take it as well. And so I just get the feeling that some of the riders might be thinking, okay, if we were to do this all over again, I need to focus way more on getting those intermediate points rather than trusting the overalls at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's certainly the intermediate points that made the difference this year in the overall classification. Neil took 10 of the 20 on offer today. I think he took all 20 in stages 3 and 4 last week and certainly picked up some the week before as well. I think we have now got the overall Zwift Games Champion 2025 on the line now. Neil, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. We're going to have to stop meeting up like this, otherwise my wife's going to start getting suspicious. Congratulations, Neil. I was watching you constantly throughout the day, and I saw the level of suffering you went through to go through those 10 points at the intermediate sprint, but then to try and cling onto that group. And then for the rest of the stage, basically, tell us what you were going through. Tell us what was going through your mind during the latter part of today's stage.
Yeah, the latter 2 climbs, I was just trying to do my own race and hang on because I don't have the 5-minute power that a lot of those guys have. So the plan was just to go for one of the 2 primes because I need those points, and then just try to hang on.
Well, you didn't just hang on, you were passing people up that final climb. It was quite the resurgence you had after those initial efforts. You didn't get any points at the first intermediate sprint. There was a group that had gone up the road there. Was that something you were looking towards to try and take some points, or was it always part of your plan to just go for the second one?
No, I wanted to go for both primes, but that group just snuck away, and it just would have been too much to try to close the gap on my own. So I decided to go all in on that second prime and leave nothing behind.
Well, I mean, you really did go all in. I'm just looking at the results over there. Joe Chuddick, it was sort of toing and froing. It reminded me actually of your championship win on the climb last week amongst those 5 riders. You had to do like a double kick towards the line to get those 10 points. Yeah,
Chuddick came around and he was hauling. So I just let him come around and then got right on top of him and nipped him at the line, I guess.
Yeah, well, those points, had you not got them, you wouldn't have won. If he just pipped you at the line there, I would not be speaking to you now. So huge congratulations for that. What was going through your mind towards the end? Were you aware of where you were in the virtual overall standings? I mean, I presume you had that graphic in front of you as well. Did you know how close it was between you and your closest competitors? Because there was a point, as I said, where 4 of you were virtually on the road on the same number of points.
Yeah, I didn't really know. I just knew that if I was top 15 with one of the primes, then it was going to be a real close call. So, yeah, I didn't really know. I did see Paradigms hit the wall there at the very end, so I kind of punched it the last minute or 2.
I'm sure you did. I expect that was quite pleasant viewing for you if it wasn't for Paradigms. Random question. Could I ask you your background in sport in general, Neil? Because take this as a compliment, but you look like the sort of person that could be pretty good at most sports rather than the standard cyclist with the spaghetti arms like myself.
Yeah, well, in undergrad, I walked on an NCAA Division II basketball team, and then quit that after about 6 months and moved over to track and field, and I was an 800-meter runner.
Oh, wow.
So Steve Ovett actually was one of my heroes growing up.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's kind of interesting to see Freddie racing.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I had a feeling you had a background in other sports. Anyway, we need to start building up towards the women's race. But yeah, one more congratulations, because I've spoken to you every week. It could not have been a more successful Zwift Games 2025 for you, so well done.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Neil. Right, what time are we on? 17:38:50 or 18:38:50, should I say? So we've got just under, oh, there's the countdown clock for you, just under 7 minutes until the women's race now. So I think we've got another minute or so to go back and talk to Nathan and Anna. I mean, Anna, Neil could not possibly have imagined that this Zwift Games would go as well for him as it has done, could he?
I think after last week, he could have imagined that, because I think seeing him there, I mean, we heard it from Jason Osborne that it wasn't particularly like a pure climbers one last week. And Neil did so well, even on some of the bigger climbs of that event. And so I think he started to dream and hope last week. And you could see in that interview, he knew, okay, I've got to be top 15 and I've got to get bonus points, and then it'll be close. So he knew those things are in my control, those two things. And it depends on the other riders, but I'm putting myself in the best position. I also liked how he mentioned there that, yeah, he did miss out on that first prime. And I think, you know, he'll be kicking himself a little bit if he hadn't won, because that would have made the difference. But, I mean, there were 2 points in it. He got it done. But, yeah, he would have loved to have been there in that first one.
I bet you would, yeah. Real risk, though, going that deep on the second intermediate sprint with that climbing still to come. I want to talk to you about the use of the feather power-ups, which all the competitors have today, Nathan. We saw a few being deployed. I think Fryett, am I right in saying, used it at the intermediate sprint to make sure he got the 10 points there? Just dropped all my notes. But a lot of the riders obviously using it on the climb to the finish today.
Yeah, it's about where you're going to get the most, right? And so there's a lot of different motivations happening out on course. And so Neil Fryett, knowing that the biggest reward for him will be those 10 points, and that would put him in the best position to climb into a top 15. That was obviously what he was aiming at, and that he had the confidence that he'd be able to hold on to a top 15 position, and that the biggest reward was going to be the feather. The other places that we saw feathers, we saw Ruben Dhondt use a feather on, I believe it was on the gradient, on the grade, and then we also saw that from Jasper Paradine. So we saw riders who were using it when it was like, I just need to hold on to this because today is about clawing my way as high up in the overall as I possibly can. So wait until those crucial moments. And then we saw other riders who were like, I'm going to use it for an attack, and it was not about using it in distress, right? Those are kind of the places where you're going to see the power-ups used.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that. And like you said, if you manage to stay on a group, it means you get a head start on the climb and hopefully a better position, which all adds up for the overall, of course. All right, congratulations once again to Jason Osborne and Neil Fryett for their respective successes today. But we're going to move on to the women's, where I remind you, Kate McCarthy has an 18-point advantage in the overall classification. So a little bit more comfortable, a lot more comfortable, I should say, than Jasper Paradine's was at the start of the men's race an hour and a half or so ago. I'm going to ask you the same question, Anna, that I asked you about the men's race. Of all of the competitors that we've witnessed racing so far in the first 4 stages, who does this long and brutal course suit the most, and who's going to struggle that's currently in the top 10, would you say?
I've been highlighting all these riders thinking, oh, who could take this out? You'd be hard to go past both Gabby Guerra and also Eilidh Gardner. I think they perform really well on these types of gradients, and they've got a lot on the line as well to try and claw back 18 points for some of them, or even more, to get to Kate McCarthy. Kate McCarthy really just has to sit in on this kind of a course. As we see the women's stage 5 riders to watch here, Kate McCarthy, we've talked about her. She's in the lead by a lot. It would take a lot for her not to take this overall. Maria Holdcroft, sort of the silent assassin who's always been there or thereabouts. There we see Gabriella Aguero, bib number 2, Catherine Furrer. Now, I highlighted her because she's got quite a few teammates out there today for Aeonian, who you must think would be working for her to try and pull her up the ranks. And then Lou Bates, who's also been performing really well, but I'm not sure this course would suit her.
Yeah, 5 riders definitely to watch in this stage 5 today. One of them being Maria Holdcroft, who Anna just described as a silent assassin. We actually caught up with her during the week, and this is what she had to say.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm from Banbury in the UK, and I race with Private RTT. So the racing so far has been super hard, really fun, but definitely type 2 fun. I knew I was in good form coming into this series because I've been racing regularly and kind of seeing good results. Ever since Worlds in October, I decided to dedicate more time to the bike and see how far I could push myself. Before, it's always been balancing kind of ultra racing in the summer with esports in the winter, and this is like the first time I've really kind of said, no, I'll just do esports and see where I can go. I think for the epic race, I just want to have a good race, which is all I can kind of ever ask. It's got a lot of long, steep climbs, which is maybe not my strong point. In terms of winning, I think that would be a huge ask because there are some really strong climbers taking part. And in terms of GC, I think Kate has extended her lead so much, she's basically untouchable now. And this is also a course that really suits her. I'd be happy to hang on to second, but I don't even know if I can manage that with the field that's racing. So obviously I was able to win the 20 points at the intermediates. That would be huge, but I don't know how likely that is considering how the other intermediates I've won. I don't think I've won any of them outright, but I think it could be interesting from the point of view of other people's GCs. So there may be a lot of interest in a breakaway going off the front to take those points, which is kind of better for me because it means other people can't catch me out. I'll watch what happens if I end up at the front and there's a chance to sprint. For it. So Kate is just super strong at the moment. She's really carried her form from the World Championships. She's strong on any course, but especially one with a long climb at the end. So it's going to be difficult to do much to pressure her, I think. So in terms of breakaways, I think we could well see them for the intermediates, but I think it's going to be difficult for that to stay away until the end, just because of how steep the climbs are. It's going to be like impossible for a group to work together.
Maria Holdcroft there, another relative newcomer to the world of Zwift and esports. So to be sitting second overall after 4 stages, just showcasing her talent there. I'm sure she'll be improving over the next months and years. Just a reminder then of the top 10, Kate McCarthy leading by that 18 points over Maria Holdcroft. Gabriella Aguero is lying in 3rd place overall, and it's Catherine Furrer who dropped from 1st to 4th last week. Lou Bates, then Söderström, Charles Barkley, Bjarne Head, Gallagher, Gardner, and then Hoekstra rounding out the top 10 as things stand in the overall classification. But those 2 intermediate sprints totaling 20 points if you win both in the early part of this final stage 5, and then the 70 points for the win across the line, and that will be the Epic Championships winner as well. Right, 5 seconds until the start of the women's race, so it's back to Anna and to Nathan.
Up and out of the saddle again. Here we go for the Ladies Epic Championship for the Zwift Games. We're in the stage number 5 here. It's great to see as the riders are out on course, leaving the piers. What kind of race are we going to have out here today? Attacks right from the get-go like we saw in the men's race, or a cagier ride waiting for those intermediate sprints? Just a lot is on the line for those. As we leave the piers, we look forward to the Jarvis KOM on that old school classic course. Anna, here we go. The ladies are out.
And we see Britt Lytton making her way to Lucy Charles Barkley's wheel. Those two have been glued together for this entire series. And Lucy Charles Barkley, she's not really putting in a huge effort here to get away from them. So maybe she just sort of took her start speed and moved that in. But she is going to around that 340 watt mark, taking a few with her. We've got Tiffany Penner there. Looks like she might be the Canadian champion with that maple leaf on her back. Lucy Charles Barkley. Now, we heard Maria Holdcroft talking at the beginning about a breakaway, making their way off the front. I think Lucy Charles will be that type of person who will make that breakaway happen. But you can see the leader here, Kate McCarthy. She will not want anything to go. Her race strategy, I would imagine today, knowing her a little bit, will be, I don't want anything to go away. I want to make sure this is as safe as possible and is as much in my control as possible. And I'm going to go all out on that final climb, and I just want to win everything.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way that she rolls, isn't it? Let's just win everything. And Kate McCarthy definitely would watch out for, as always. But Lucy Charles Barkley, in my opinion, if I had a vote, Now, this isn't a part of the competition or anything, but I would vote for one of the, if not the most aggressive rider for the series. She has done this over and over again. And the other thing is that she's had the aggression and then she has hung on or been in the conversation for either stage first across the lines or making the moves that made the break happen. I mean, over and over again, Lucy Charles Barkley has shown that she is an esports competitor of the highest level and likes to just make the races very hard. So aggressive throughout this series.
Exactly. She likes riding 180 kilometers as a TT effort. So she wants to make this hard. This is short for her, you know, just over 44 kilometers. That's a very short race for her. So she will be going very hard, trying to, like you said, Nathan, make it attritional. She's moved back into the pack here. I do have a little bit of inside word that there might be some teams cross-working together here. So there's been a few who know that they break off the front regularly, and they have been talking to say, well, let's work together. Basically make it a TTT off the front, heading into Jarvis, get some bonus points and try and carry that for as long as possible. So let's see if that manages to happen. But I'm kind of looking here at Pia Kuma and Britt Lytton for maybe trying to fire something up there from this pack as they head around the volcano, not up it today, and they'll be heading into Jarvis Island for those first bonus points. Now, if anybody wants to beat Kate McCarthy, they will have to take these bonus points away from her. And we know how she has gone for these bonus points in every single other race, doggedly, every single time. And she is moving to the front of this group too. She's not going to let anything get away. She would have seen the men's race and how close it was there for Neil Fryett. She will be watching this like a hawk.
To see Lucy Charles Barkley and Tiffany Penner, your reigning Canadian champions, just hunting that jersey. Great to see Tiffany Penner at the front. This is a rider who she's been around for a while, but she has slowly been one of those riders that just takes up another level and another level and another level. And this year, winning the Canadian National Championship, so cool to see from Tiffany Penner. She's somebody I'm always rooting for. She's got a really good kick on her. So perhaps getting into a little breakaway situation and then being able to kick over the top to grab some good points might be a situation for her. Another one of those Alex Coe athletes. Great to see, coached by Alex Coe. Tiffany Penner now pushing on the front. Love Tiffany Penner and all the action she's brought to the esports.
Yeah, this is great from her. I love seeing the Canadian bands out in front. We saw it with Thomas Stroll. Now we're seeing it with Tiffany Penner. Lucy Charles Barkley, she sort of got chased down a bit and then lost a bit of impetus to keep that going as they're coming around this last part of the volcano before they hit into those new Jarvis roads. Do want to make a shout out here to Mika Soderstrom, who I saw just chasing that down as well. She may be the general working for Gabriella Aguero because Gabriella is sitting in third place. She'll want to move up, you know, into second, if not try any way she can to get to first. It's a long shot with the amount of points that Kate McCarthy has. But as you can see here, Mika Soderstrom, I believe she is working here for Gabby because the way she chased down that attack straight on, and she's always at the front of this pack at the moment. And I'm also looking out for Cecilia Hansen and Leonie Harper, both Aeonian riders who will likely be working for Catherine Fura today to try and get Catherine up, the previous champion, up from fourth position up into the podium slot. So there's a lot of team dynamics here too that we'll see playing out over this course. They're just a couple of kilometers in, but we are very close to that first lot of bonus points at the top of the Jarvis climb. So 10 points for first, 5 points for second, and 3 points for third as they go over that QOM. And there's a lot on the line to make sure that they get these as we see another attack going off the front. Elise Galagos, what's she playing at here, Nathan?
Wahoo Esports looking to put an upset here, maybe into some of these points and have a lead-out situation. I think that's what's going on. Also remember, Mika Soderstrom is in 6th overall in the GC, and she's covering moves by Lucy Charles Barkley, who is in 7th overall in the GC. So I think there's definitely a situation here where she is marking Lucy Charles Barkley to make sure that she moves up or at least keeps her off. Mika's trying to keep Lucy Charles Barkley off of that 5th, 4th, 6th place, etc. Because the climbers, Lou Bates, Catherine Furr, Gabriella Aguero, Maria Holdcroft, Mary-Kate McCarthy, we've got as well as Eileen Gardner, probably going to have a walkaway situation, whereas Mika and Lucy Charles Barkley are going to be battling out for some points here. So if Mika can grab points here in just a moment, we're going to have a situation where she can then get some distance between herself and Lucy Charles Barkley in that 6th place and solidify herself in that 6th place. I'm not sure that Mika is looking forward to necessarily beating out Lou Bates, Catherine Furr, Gara, etc. that are above her, but she can solidify her 6th place if she covers Lucy Charles Barkley and takes some big points here over the top of this KOM.
Look, I've seen someone coming through the pack there, just moving their way ahead. I've got to say, with this group, they cannot stay together. Someone has got to go, because we know if Kate McCarthy is in this group heading into this bonus points and she takes bonus points, that's it. That will be it, her race, unless she blows up on the final climb, which I don't think she will. This is really what she loves, is these big, long, extended climbs. Someone has got to take these bonus points, and I'm just not seeing the aggression that we saw in the men's race to get someone off the front. Instead, we're seeing people dropping off the back. So the pace is just too high for people, it seems, to break away, and that is playing into the hands of Kate McCarthy, our leader. So you see Tilly Field just coming through from the back. It doesn't look like she's going to counter. She just kind of yo-yoed there and made her way back on. But Nathan, I'm finding this really surprising with 500 meters to go to the bonus points, and we're not seeing a move here.
Catherine Furr now set up perfectly here. Now we're getting into the kick, and this is the main kick. Now Maria Holdcroft makes a move. It looks like now Mika Soderstrom in the lead out there. Gabriella Aguero right on Mika's wheel. Big kick from Catherine Furr. Furr's looking for the points. Here comes the feather power. Big feather power is being thrown down from the riders here all the way to the line. Who's going to be able to take this down as Furr continues on? Here comes Mary Kate McCarthy. Mary Kate McCarthy looks like she's going to be able to take some points here, but it's going to be at the line. McCarthy versus Furr. McCarthy versus Furr. It's going to be McCarthy, I think, is going to take this one down at the line. Solid move here from McCarthy to solidify herself. It's going to be Furr, followed up by Gara. That is points in the bank for those riders, but that solidifies it. I don't think, barring anything insane happening, that there's going to be a chance in the world for anyone to take her down at this point. She probably just won the Zwift Games Championship.
That was it. Textbook Kate McCarthy. She even dropped the power up, and that forced the hand of the others to drop the power ups too to get those points. So these riders here that we've seen slightly breaking away, they're about 3 to 5 seconds ahead now. But Kate McCarthy, phenomenal. That must be it. You know, she should have her hands in the air right now. I can't imagine her blowing up massively to move outside of the top 10 on these last climbs. So she has got maximum bonus. What will she do at the next bonus points? You know, from knowing her personality, she might just try and take all bonus points and the finish line and just solidify her as the ultimate champion of these Zwift Games. But really impressive there, I've got to say, from Catherine Furr. That was really well done by her to get into that second place, because as we know, she is sitting in 4th, and Maria Holdcroft nowhere to be seen on that sprint. So those will move her up really well to hopefully get a podium position. And now we've got to keep an eye on Maria Holdcroft, that she doesn't drop out of that podium position. As we go past the Banjo Cafe, you mentioned this earlier, Nathan, great part of the course.
Real quickly, a lot of feather power-ups were used. I didn't see one from Gara, interesting enough, which tells me there's different motivations on the day today for Gabriella Aguero. I might have a little bit of inside there, but no feather power-up? Interesting to see when everybody else was using a feather power-up. For the overall, perhaps the focus has changed about what is on the menu today. All back together, it looks like here, as we are looking at Karina Schrimpf now battling her way into the pack as they get back on terms after the massive attack. Took quite a while to get back on terms, though, and telling us how incredibly difficult that lead-in has been.
Yeah, when we had that camera pan out next to that Banjo Cafe, there were about 5 groups on the road. Just unbelievable. And Kate McCarthy here moving to the front of the pack, not at a huge watt, so she obviously was just trying to get into maybe a little micro super tuck. Man, she just knows this game so unbelievably well. And I was looking through the results from where she was last year. You know, she was sitting sort of overall 35th place at the games last year. The amount of improvement she has made in the last year is phenomenal. And I talked about it last week, but I'll talk about it again. It's not just in raw power. Her craft of knowing timing, when to go, even just that tiny bit of -4 gradient, and she was there getting maximum recovery at the front of the group. I mean, it's just unreal how she has managed to do that in such a short space of time.
All together now at this point, as we do have a chase group off the back a little bit here, and that is going to be Shrimp making the chase actually It looks like only 10 seconds back, so good to see, as she's going to most likely be able to make the juncture. And so we start seeing a little bit of movement at the front, but I think the riders, they're going to be thinking the next place out on course that you're going to be thinking about is going to be the Dirty Suppressor, right? We saw that in the men's race. You've got the dirt on that section. It's a little bit of a bump. If you do want to get some distance to be able to, have some comfy seconds to work with over the top of that climb into the jungle, that might be something where they might be working together for. Here is that chase group now making their way back on terms with the main group here. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so with Proust at the back.
Yeah, it's not a good sign, though, when you've dropped on the very first climb of the day where there's about sort of 5 climbs still to come. So that's not ideal. They might make their way back on, but probably, won't be contesting for the win here. See Natalie Smith there from Saris. She's right near the front. That's great for her. I'm actually seeing on my companion app all the PRs popping in, and I saw Gabby had done a PR on that climb, as had Natalie Smith, who was near the front. So really, really high pace, and that's why all the feathers were dropped, just to make sure you were staying near the front. That is interesting, the point you made too, that Gabby had not dropped her feather. So that will be good for her to get, past Kate McCarthy on this last climb at Epic, because she will know absolutely that Kate doesn't have the feather, and that means she's got, like we saw with Lionel Vujasan, a great sort of launch pad to drop the feather up the climb and attack with that 10% drop in weight for 30 seconds. So yeah, good decision there from Gabby not to drop that and maybe sacrifice the win on those bonus points for an overall win at the end of the day.
Now to the front, it looks like just a roll through, perhaps, coming in from some of the riders that just made the juncture back. So very, very calm at this point. Very cagey ride, as we can see. So a little bit different from what we saw in the men. I mean, there's a lot on the line at this point. And there's, as you did say, a lot of climbing to come up at this point still. So because of that, I think all the riders are thinking about reserving as much energy as they possibly can. And with the reality of how motivated everyone seems to be here and how quickly they're chasing things down, we saw immediate responses over and over again early on. And I think that may have taken a little bit of wind out of the sails from some of the other plans of some of the riders to say, look, that was a lot even for that first KOM. It was very short. And even with that, are stinging. Perhaps some of the plans are starting to change up to look forward to only the crucial points out on course.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. I think that first climb was just too hard for a lot of them. We do have in the picture here Karina Schrempf. She is from Austria, and we've got her in picture because she rides professionally for the Phoenix de Koenig team. So she's a wildcard rider out here with a lot of support around her. A couple of coaches, team managers, about 4 or 5 people. They're clapping. Man, this is great. She's smiling to camera. She's having a great time out there. So probably a bit new to Zwift racing, but doing really well. I saw her taking on some gels. So yeah, obviously she's had a baptism by fire with that first climb straight out of the gate. It's been so hard, but she's looking great. Look at that high, looks like she's riding a higher cadence than what we're seeing there. It's showing 67, but that looks really good. Really relaxed in her position, those loose elbows and everything there. As we're hitting the Dirty Suppressor now, Liz Van Houweling has moved to the front, riding 450 watts up this climb. This is where I thought actually we'd see an attack in the men's race, and we didn't so much. But Liz Van Houweling been a little bit quiet the last couple of races, but she is positioned sort of around that top 15 mark. So really, really good here, riding for Next Esport presented by Insured. And who's on her wheel but Tiffany Penner. Very, very motivated riding here today from Tiffany.
Yeah, and Liz, I like what I'm seeing from Liz. This is usually not what you see from Liz Van Houweling, but I think the reason why we're seeing is very much a pure sprinter a lot of times, but she's worked a ton on her ability to hold a super high FTP. She's been super successful at that, and I think the reality is that she knows she might not be able to make with the front climbers, but if she gets a little bit of a distance for herself, or she may be looking to set up Lucy Charles Barkley, perhaps, her teammate out there, as Barkley looks to just kind of keep things calm on the front, it looks like, as these two might be able to get a little bit of distance. This may be a satellite situation for Lucy Charles Barkley to come across to Liz Van Houweling later on. So we'll see if that perhaps is what's happening here. Now Charles Barkley perhaps starting to set things up at the front, though. Nope, Meyer actually and Charles Barkley rotating a little bit, and now the jump, I think, is coming. Perhaps we'll have to see as Meyer looks to set up perhaps Lucy Charles Barkley, there it is. Charles Barkley now jumps across. I thought that was what was happening. It was interesting to see that Meyer, the teammate of Lucy Charles Barkley, was at the front as well as her. Now they're looking to set 3 off the front from Next presented by Insured with Tiffany Penner. So this is definitely a planned attempt to put 3 Next riders off the front to try and work together.
Yeah, and how is Next presented by Insured with their team tactics? Probably one of the best in game, both on the men's and women's side. Now, Liz Van Helling's still on the wheel here of Tiffany Penner. Great job from Tiffany Penner. Lucy Charles Barkley, about 3 seconds behind. She's got a little gap on the pack, but she's done it slightly dangerously, and the pack has sort of increased pace a little bit. So it's only a 4-second gap to them, and then another 4 seconds up to the group in front. But if you look at that pack, you can tell if it's going fast because it'll start to sort of make a teardrop shape. So there'll be riders sort of off the front with a bit of a stretch out to the riders at the back. Now, that's not really happening as we see Hayley Simmons move to the front, but only at 173 watts. So that's just on the downhill part. So lead group with Lucy Charles Barkley now up there with Liz Van Houweling, Tiffany Penner, and Nicole Mayer, just 2 seconds off the pace. So she needs to get up there. And then that is actually quite dangerous. That is a good group to have off the front to start to get these bonus points and push up over the climbs if they can stay away. But what are we seeing here? Elise Galagos moving up, doing a great little sort of bunch, trying to hop between bunches with a really, really good kick. But Nicole Mayer has come through that pack with a bit of speed, and they're having none of it.
Yeah, big kicks now from the pack as they're responding to Elise Gallegos. Gallegos now almost back on terms with Nicole Meyer, it looks like. This is 4UP is working really well together. Might start to get a situation where they form a solid group that's really willing to put the time in and put the work in to get away from this pack. Jen Rio looking to try and go across. Quinton Kolchinski jumps on that as well, as you can see in the rider list nearby. Brings back just a few seconds. Gallegos is almost on terms with this. She will make the junction. Alberg is also there, the Swedish rider, now putting some work in at 7-8 watts per kilogram. They've got 2 seconds on the main pack. Kolchinski, Real, Alberg, all together as well behind here. So this is getting really interesting because we might end up with a situation with a large group of very strong riders able to put some time between themselves and the main pack. Now, the question is, how well is that going to hang on? Even 10, 15 seconds on that main climb a little bit, because the big climbers, the climbers that really have the power, they're still going to be able to throw down some pretty solid watts. And when it's all matched together, they are willing at those points to put the work in. Kolchinski, though, looks really motivated today. She missed last week. She had a little bit of a crazy situation at home from that, and I think she's going to be motivated after having a horrible upset actually at home. She actually got stuck in a closet getting a towel and had to have the police come to open up the doors. We feel so bad for that. She said that we could talk about it. She shared it on her social media, and shout out to her for being such a trooper and showing up this week. And I think she's going to be very motivated after that traumatic experience to take the rage from missing last week and put it into the pedals today, because she's looking to go across.
Yeah, what a traumatic experience. Got to say, like, one of my worst nightmares. So, yeah, great to see her back out. So mentally tough to come back out and race today. And we can see that front group. They're just inside. I don't think this is going to be enough, because you can see Eileen Gardner on the front of this chase pack. There are a lot of riders, I believe, who are really working for Gabby today, and she might be one of them as they approach these lower slopes. It's around a 2% gradient, so a little bit of pressure on the pedals, and then it really kicks up. Like you can see, it's a great shot here to see those angles of the climb that they'll be approaching very shortly. Like I said, you can get some micro recoveries around the corners, but positioning is so very important. And that's why you're seeing all the front runners coming to the front of this pack as they hit the climb, with Kristen Kolchinski here in that pink Tron with a couple of riders on her wheel that are trying to make the junction to that next pack. But will the main group be able to get on? And when will Kate McCarthy think, no, we need to do this, and take it up on herself?
It's a really good question. Here we already see some feather power-ups being thrown down as Jennifer Real is actually at the front of the main group, chasing down that second group out on course that does contain Camelia Alberg, Elise Gallegos, Kristen Kolchinski, 4 second packs from the main group that we can see. Look at this. Look, they're about to make that juncture, but behind the Cecilia Hansen, who has taken podiums at Worlds before, she's now at the front here, 13 seconds back, starting to bring this back, 7 watts per kilogram from them. Nicole Meyer at 5. Can they hold on? That's going to be the big question now. They've got 10 seconds or so over the main field. and whether or not they're able to work together and continue forward over the top and then take this pack. I mean, this is enough riders to snowball effect and slingshot effect through the entire jungle and actually grow the gap. And people behind might say, look, I'm not doing the work. That's not up to me. Go for it all day long because we are not interested no longer in those points that are up there. This is interesting to see, but Catherine Furr now heads to the front and says, no, we can't let this go. She kicks down 7 watts per kilogram, and this might be coming back together. But Kolchinski still trying to stretch this out and get a break to happen.
Yeah, she's riding really hard. Over 300 watts here for Kristen Kolchinski with Nicole Mayer on her wheel and Lucy Charles Barkley hanging tough with her teammate Liz Van Houweling, who also has made up those wheels. This is actually perfect for them that they're still a group of 5. They just dropped Elise Gallegos. She's just there sort of drifting behind. If they can get on here, it is very draftable. It's about 3 to 4% all the way to the downhill into the jungle. But, who are we seeing on the front there? Kate McCarthy, the Golden Tron. I knew it. At some point, she would not be happy with the composition of that group ahead and the danger that they pose to the bonus points. And I just believe Kate's going for a win-win-win scenario today. Win on the bonus, win on the finish line. She did not want that to go away. You can just see she pulled that back in. And what an unbelievable ride there from her. Catherine Furr also at the front. But really, really smart riding from Gabby Guerra, who was just in the pack. You know, she didn't put her nose in the wind. She just let the other girls chase it down. She didn't panic, and that will be saving her legs for the final climb. And we know she has that feather as well.
Yeah, and it's a reduced field here at this point. So, you know, for those who are looking to grab points, it's a lot easier to work your way through a pack that is reduced, right? You can mark people, you know exactly where everybody is. You don't really have to fight your way through the pack quite as much. And so as they reduce this field, as they put this pressure on, it does start to make the race hard as well. If you want the race to just be attritional, you want to just make it so that, you know, later on in the race, you are able to down as much power as you want to and just throw down and not have to worry about, you know, making your way through any kind of packs or what kind of team tactics are playing out. So those who like a hard race and want a smaller pack for those sprints, they're going to love this situation. Catherine Furr, though, this is interesting from her. I was not expecting that, but it looks like here now Furr is the one who's making the moves actually to bring everything back together. Looking for some security, perhaps, it looks like, in these final intermediate sprints. If she was able to take 5, that's definitely a big boost for Furr, and this puts her in contention for the actually against some of those other riders. Not for Mary Kate McCarthy necessarily, but for some of these other riders that are challenging her. This puts her in a good position to try and take some 10 points over the top of Mayan and really jump up over in the overalls.
Yeah, exactly. That was great riding from her. And she actually came into the chat on the live stream last week when, you know, we'd said she'd had a bit of a disappointing race. And she was like, oh, no, yeah, I did. And I think she'll be wanting to come back just, you know, really strong. Actually, I mentioned that last week that, you know, she'll feel a bit gutted about what happened in the race before, and this is the one that she will bring her energy to, and I think we're seeing that on the road now. But we do have shortly, actually, Lucy Charles Barkley in screen, and we have a video of her taking on a challenge over the last week. Let's see this come through on the videos now.
I am Lucy Charles Barkley. I am from London, and I am a professional triathlete and 3-time world champion. To be sitting in around that 7th place, I'm definitely really over the moon with that. We've still got all to play for this weekend. It's a massive stage. I'm already a bit nervous about the pain that's coming. So this coming stage obviously is a bit longer than the ones we've been doing before, and there's the big climb at the end. And looking kind of at how the racing played out this weekend just gone with stages 3 and 4, I really struggled to keep up with the super light women on the climb. So I feel like I'm going to have to be quite tactical here. I might have to break away early and see what happens. Maybe some girls will come with me and we can work together. But I think that's all the fun, really, to be honest. In terms of kind of targets for this, I think I've just got to go out there and see what happens. Like, I'd be really happy if I can finish top 10 in the GC at the end. That would be really great. Over the previous 2 weeks, I've done slightly better in the second race, which probably just favours my endurance a little bit. Obviously, I race for 8-9 hours when I'm racing Ironman, so this racing is very short for me. So hopefully the fact that this is just one slightly longer stage, it might play to my favour, and knowing that really the big effort's going to be right at the end where we go up that climb. yeah, so hopefully my endurance is going to pay off. Obviously, Kate McCarthy is leading the way. She just seems to always get the tactic right. She's been able to get the primes and then get the overall wins as well and just collect up all the points. So, yeah, she's always the one I'm looking out for. But if I can stay close to her will, then I know I'm going to do well. When I knew I wanted to do a bit more Zwift racing, I kind of put the word out that I would like to join one of the pro teams, and it was Next Esports that instantly came back and was like, we'd love to have you. So yeah, it's been really great to feel like I've got a few teammates around. We obviously talk a lot on Discord as well, and we can get some more tactics around what we're doing, and knowing you've got some teammates on the course as well is really cool. So yeah, I've been enjoying being part of their team as well.
That's really great to hear, and it's so fun to see the in real life, pros from across many disciplines to be getting involved in the esports. And when this first started about 10 years ago or so, we're at 10 years of Zwift at this point. We were starting up communication servers and different ways to do things. Back then, we were using Ventrilo, which was like a gamer's servers for audio communication. Then it moved to Discord. And to hear Lucy Charles Barkley say, "Yeah, we're hanging out in the Discord, in this gaming world meets in real life sports world," it's such a cool synergy of those two things here on the Zwift Games.
Yeah, I love it. And, us triathletes, we love Zwift because we're just so used to being on an indoor trainer that actually being able to race and have a bit of fun and talk to people just makes the training so much more enjoyable. So I can see why she sort of embraced it with an open heart and is really actually doing well at it. As we're approaching now this bridge part, we did see in the men's race just before, it was a launch pad for a bit of an attack up this sort of 10% grade that they come through after the downhill. If you get the timing right, as we see Ali Gardner at the front of this group, we also saw Gabriella Aguero move to the front. You can see her picture there. Very, very calm and collected today, I've got to say. And they've got the gold Tron, Kate McCarthy, moving to the front. She may launch here. I don't know if she's just kind of going to have a bit of fun with the race now. She's so far ahead on the points lead, but just moves to the front, just gets her timing again perfectly right. Kristen Kolczynski also in this group around P7. And Tiffany Penner has made it as well. We did see a little bit of a catch just being made before that swing bridge. A group of about 5 came through with a little bit of speed. Liz Van Houweling was also in that group. She'd just been dropped before. So back up to a group of around 15 to 20 riders here coming into what I would say is the recovery and the race. So it's downhill about -4 to -3 the whole way. Not really enough to get into a super tuck, particularly with the dirt roads, but enough that you can recover, so to get your heart rate down. We're seeing with Kate McCarthy, her heart rate's down to a 145, not sort of pushing too hard, making sure that they're ready for the next bonus points, which will be coming very shortly after this descent as we hit those roads into the Mayan mountainside.
Main group, 22 riders in the main group. There's a chase group off the back, about 12 seconds or so, or 30 seconds, off the back there with 8 riders. And then we do have the Schneider group a little ways back from there as well, another 13 seconds. So about 5 groups out on course, though, at this point, it looks like. This main group with those 22, they are the cream of the crop here as they make their way downhill through the jungle. No downhill attacks, it looks like at this point. There's those great groups along the bottom here. Love to see what Zwift put together with these graphics. It's so nice to be able to follow along about all the action that is currently happening. That chase group now working together a little bit at 52 kilometers per hour on the downhill. So as you can see, they are able to bring back a little bit of time. It'll be probably too little too late, though, as they hit the Mayan probably in the next couple of minutes here. It's a little bit too much probably to make a juncture for anybody. And even if they do, they've been working so incredibly hard. The moment they hit that Mayan, things are going to really ramp up because that is the last section to hit intermediate points with 10, 5, and 3 on the line.
You're right, Nathan. And we basically saw the men's race won at this bonus points that we have coming up shortly. Will we see any movement from that position 2nd through to position 4th? We're looking at Gabriella Aguero, we're looking at Maria Holdcroft, we're looking at Catherine Fura, Lou Bates, who we haven't actually talked about. I have to see if she is in this pack. Yes, she has made this pack, so she's in here as well. Obviously didn't go for the first bonus points. Will this be as fought as we saw in the men's race, or I guess people are resigned to the fact that Kate McCarthy has basically won, but she'll likely go for the points. A lot of feathers had already been gone in that first bonus points. Will we see Gabby use that feather or climb?
You know, I think it's going to be an all-out battle for these bonus points right here. Did Maria Holdcroft use the feather, though? It's going to be a big question because it is a battle between Fur, Gara, and Holdcroft. There they are on screen with that dashboard. Again, as a quick reminder, I'm using the dashboard right now. That's how I know where those groups are. That's how I know where the riders are as well. I can click on through and see. As you see those little arrows there, too? At the bottom, you can go down another page and see what the outside of that top 20 is to the top 40. It's great to be able to click around and find all your favorite riders, know where the groups are at, and follow along with the favorites. So Zwift.com/dashboard is where you can find that. ZwiftGames.com, /dashboard, or head over to ZwiftGames.com for all the information as well as links to everything about Zwift Games for your own journey in the Zwift Games that you can do out on Zwift, as well as to follow along with the elites. Well, left-hand turns, we leave the jungle section. Mayan KOM coming up real quickly, and everybody's setting up for the final time to be able to grab the big points for the Zwift Games overall.
Exactly. They're just over halfway through this race, but as we know, all the hard parts come from now. So they're heading into this beautiful new Mayan jungle, added about a year ago, and such great roads. It's actually a really nice climb. It's one of my favorites. It goes up with a bit of flat, very draftable, not too bad, but as we saw, a full sprint at the end, and it's a sprint on a slight uphill grade and then a little bit flat, and then you go straight into another climb, the It's a climb. Now that is not for any points, but it just is so hard on the legs and you can't really recover, and then before you know it, you're taking that left-hand turn and you're on the grade climb, which there is no chance for recovery. That's where we're going to see all the attacks for people to try to get away. Now what I'm interested in the women's race that I think might be different to the men's is in the men's race we saw a group of about 5 go over the grade into the downhill. I think this is an opportunity of Gabriella Aguero to try and get away at the top of the grade and go solo, because she will be able to ride at a high watt. I've seen some of her training on that sort of flat rolling plat into the bottom of Epic. Will she do that? Because that will mean, putting a lot of eggs in one basket, potentially using the feather to then go solo on a descent and hope that people can't get her. Or is that just too risky? Are we all going to see everyone just hammering it out on the Epic climb?
I think a lot depends on, are things breaking apart on that grade? And if they are breaking that grade and you have a confidence that it's going to be all whittled out, that it's going to be rider, and not a large group, then the confidence is there to go all in, use the feather power up and break everything and have some distance and just work by yourself. But then if the riders are together over the top of the grade and you're alone off the front and they're working together to bring you back, you've got some heavy hitters here. The big question is whether or not Maria Holdcroft and Catherine Furr make a group over the grade, right? Because if they do, they're going to have all the motivation in the world to bring back Gara. So it's an interesting one. If Gara is going for the Epic out here, there's going to be a moment of choice, right? Of whether or not that's the place or saving it for somewhere on the final climb. Where's the best risk reward? Either way, I think the grade, though, the second half of the grade, is going to be the main place where things are definitely going to be decided for who's going to make a top 5, whether or not where those groups are going to play out. But in front of us right now, we've started the KOM. Here we go. Mayan KOM, the final intermediate points. This is the first thing that has to be decided for the overall, because this is where there's 10, 5, and 3. Holdcroft and Furr are going to be extremely motivated right here to grab points.
Yeah, and don't forget Lou Bates as well, and Mika Soderstrom also, though she won't want to take points away from her teammate Gabriella Aguero. So this one is really going to dictate how the rest of the race goes, because if you're in that top 5 position and you don't get any points here, you have to go all out on the grade to get away and then hopefully stay away on the Epic climb, because a lack of points here can move you really far behind, as we saw in the men's race. That really just changed things up when we had that virtual leaderboard going. And we will have that virtual leaderboard popping up again after these bonus points. So we have a great idea of where everything is sort of playing out. Keeping in mind, Kate McCarthy, unless something goes really wrong, she will be at the front because she also maxed out her bonus points at the earlier one in the Jarvis area. But here we are, about 1.3 kilometers away, still really calm. We're not seeing any flyers go off. In the race beforehand, we did see a feather being dropped around about now for an early attack. Definitely not seeing that in the women's race. Very, very cagey.
Yeah, it's pretty calm, all waiting for the final kick. Now, does Mary Kate McCarthy go for these? Does she feel comfortable at this point that she is going to be strong enough in the final to say, I'm not going to go for these. This is going to be all about maybe a counterattack or just trying to win on the day. If she goes for these, then she's put in a massive amount of energy, whereas if she doesn't, she can sit in and not sit in, but semi-sprint and reserve something because the other riders have to. They have to challenge each other for second, third, fourth, etc. So I have a feeling maybe, you might be right though. Mary Kate McCarthy might just want to just stomp her, I am the absolute champion of all sprints, and just take down all points and totally secure things, depending on how she's feeling into this climb. So it's an interesting one to see how this is going to play out.
And we know she's the best at recovering after a really, really hard sort of 13 watt per kg effort straight into a climb is probably what she would love. That's her, I would say her absolute skill set, is being able to recover so fast and push again off a huge sprint. Okay, we've got 685 meters to go. We're seeing Tiffany Penner move to the front, 5 watts per kg. Illy Gardner right on her wheel, but really staying close here together. Not many feathers left to play. The only person I'm looking at to see if they're dropping a feather is Gabriella Aguero, as all of the Wahoo team is right on those front wheels, right on Tiffany Penner as they come through past this watered area. Bit of a sort of corkscrew as they go around. 490 meters to go, Nathan.
Yeah, Holdcroft right there as well. It looks like it's going to be a lead out here, maybe from Wahoo. Now Wahoo no longer there. Kristen Kolchinsky starting to go. Here goes Gallegos. Gallegos, I think, is now starting to make the lead out situation. Lou Bates is there as well. Always somebody who likes a really long sprint. Only 345 meters to go at this point. This is going to come right down to it. Maria Holdcroft is set up absolutely perfect, but it looks like Guerra's right on her wheel. Who's going to take this one down? It's all in at this point. It's Guerra now kicks very early. That's a very kick from Garrett, 13 watts per kilogram, but she looks like she's got the gap all the way to the line. But here comes Fryett and Holdcroft. It looks like Garrett's going to take down the 10 points, and she's got the gap, and she does it just barely as the other two were coming on through. Massive there from Guerra as she makes her way to the line.
Oh my gosh, Guerra, I just saw her bouncing her bike up and down there in the picture-in-picture. I was like, no, please, no technical issue here. As she's bouncing it around, she sat up very early, I thought, on that. She went, and then her avatar sort of sat up. The pressure wasn't on the anymore, and I was thinking, what horrific timing if they come through right in that last second. Is something wrong with her bike? I'm not sure. There's a lot of bouncing up and down going on. We see people do that in real life when they have a flat tire, but that can't be it. Maybe it's come a little bit out of its front holder, with that effort. Interestingly enough, no big effort there from Kate McCarthy. As we see the bonus points, Gabriella Aguero, 10 points. Maria Holdcroft, the silent assassin, 5 points there, and Catherine Fura, 3. This is a huge battle between second, third, and fourth with those bonus points. I'm going to be so excited to see what these virtual standings look like, because that will have really changed things up.
Yeah, Garrett did have a little bit of a technical there for just a second. It does look like she's had a lot of trouble, I think, recently with the front wheel holding on. She actually taped the holder of the wheel onto it, but I think it just moved a little bit there. So trying to adjust live there. Things happen. Almost like a wheel change real quick, it looked like to me, perhaps, now as they make their way through here. Big 10 points to grab there. Guerra solidifying herself.
Yeah, that was very nerve-wracking there, Nathan, and I know you're next to Gabby there while you're commentating, so good job there trying to multitask and get that sorted out. A lot of people do use weights on the wheel and the trainer just because of the effort you're putting through in some of these sprints. You move things around. Even the skewers, which you do so tightly, can get moved around so much on the indoor trainer. So, yeah, I've got 5 kg weights on both sides of my trainer and a sandbag on the front wheel to make sure everything stays down in place. I mean, I prefer prefer to bolt it to the floor, but I don't think we're going to go that extreme. But I do know some Zwifters who do. So, yeah, that looked like a little bit of a scary moment there for Gabby. I could sense a bit of the panic and seeing her on screen there to be sort of jittering her bike around. But good that she got the points. She's back in the pack. She can recover a bit. We're hitting that It's a Climb now. Not too hard a gradient, about 3%. But then we know the big one is coming at the second half of the grade. Those little corners going up to the top into a big downhill. And then it's the epic that will define this finale. Looking forward to those virtual results coming on up because, like I said, those bonus points came between the second place, the third place, and the fourth place on the Zwift Games tally at the moment. So this will change things around. Kate McCarthy likely still with a comfortable lead as we see these points come up. So Kate McCarthy at the front, although it is switching around a little bit depending on what's happening with the girls at the front of the pack. Maria Holdcroft doing well there, and Gabriella Aguero, Lou Bates still doing well, and Catherine Furrer moving up as well. Lucy Charles Barkley, she was very stoked with the top 7 position, and she was still holding strong there about 6. So, that's a great result from her as well.
Yeah, this is interesting now. Now, look at that. The big jump, though. Look, 364. So Kate McCarthy, the moment she makes her way to the front of the pack for the overall virtual, everything changes, and you can see the massive amount of points that she has gained at this point. Now, here's the thing. We didn't see her involved in that sprint, and that's exactly why she's reserving for the grade and the final climb. Gara, on the other hand, had to go in to beat Holdcroft and Furrer in order to really solidify her second place, and now she has to outclimb those two with those extra points on the day. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the overall for those second, third, fourth. Unless Kate McCarthy has the worst climbing day of her life, this is done, and she didn't even have to sprint for those. She could let those go, reserve the energy, and just save it for these final climbs. Nicely done by Kate McCarthy. It's all playing into her hands for the Zwift Games overall. Now the question mark, though, is those top 5 or 6 places that are changing around and how those are going to play out between her, Charles Barkley, Lou Bates, Gabriella Aguero, and Maria Holdcroft. Those are the names we're watching here at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Kate McCarthy there, she'll have quite a benefit over the others for the fact that she sat in the pack that whole time. It's actually very unusual to see her do that at some bonus points. We always see her go for them. So that was a smart play. She'll be the most. We can see her at the front of this group now, just pushing a little bit of pace, staying on those good positions, staying on the front wheels. Lucy Charles Barkley moving ahead a little bit. No attacks here. I to be honest, think most people are pretty gassed after that sprint effort and then going straight into the It's a Climb. 3% to 6% gradients, they can still draft and recover, but it's really hard on the legs, and they all know what's coming up. So, yeah, I'm not surprised we're not seeing any major attacks here off the front. As we see the virtual rankings, I keep seeing it really is switching a lot between Maria, Gabriella, and Catherine Furrer, but I'd have to say Gabriella Aguero would. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, Maria Holdcroft holding strong. Lou Bates will be an interesting one to watch as well, but Kate McCarthy, we just had her on camera. Yeah, she's well ahead. As we see Tiffany Penner taking a flyer off the front, Nathan.
I'm liking this from Tiffany Penner. She's getting a little bit bored perhaps with the pace, saying, okay, I know you're all looking at each other. Well, I'm going to just think about myself and make my race what I need it to be, get a little bit of a distance, get some awesome TV time. This is great to see from Penner, taking the aggression to everybody else. She used to be only a pure sprinter. That was all that she had in the matchbook. But now she's showing us that she's put some other work in and has a solid FTP. Just the fact that she's here after how much has gone on at this point and attacking off the front is a massive boost for Tiffany Penner and how she feels about just her status amongst them. It's huge for Tiffany Penner. It's great to see. And now we get the response from some of those more aggressive riders that we've seen. Lucy Charles Barkley, Nicole Meyer, teammates now making their way off the front as they head into the final for the It's OK OM.
And let's not forget that Tiffany Penner rides for Cryo RDT, which is also the team for Maria Holdcroft. So this will likely also be a team move here. Send that satellite rider up the road. And that's exactly what she's doing. 8 seconds now. Now that will be a good carrot to chase for Maria Holdcroft. She'll be able to get onto her teammate's wheel at some point. But this also means that the other groups, the other riders in that group have to put in the work to chase. Now, who is going to do that? I'm not sure if Kate McCarthy will be motivated enough to chase this down. We've seen Lucy Charles Barkley go, but this is playing very, very well, these tactics, into Maria Holdcroft's hands.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely going to be a chase situation. And Elise Gallegos here from Wahoo's taking that up, it looks like, as she makes her way to the front. Interesting enough, I'm seeing a rider fall off the back a little bit from the Cryo RDT team. That's going to be Charlotte Holdcroft, actually, that just fell off the back. So maybe was putting in a little bit of work at the front, did her work for the team at this point. Now Holdcroft there from Cryo RDT is now off the back. So whittling it down little by little as they hit the It's a KOM. Here we go. Left-hand turn, and now the fireworks are going to start popping off. What's going to happen? How is it going to play out over the top of the second half of the grade as Penner now has a lead of about 9 seconds, it looks like, over the main pack. It's going to be Nicole Meyer 3 seconds back, Elise Gallegos, and then we see Eiley Gardner making her way to the front here. This is her wheelhouse. We're about to hit the sections where she's most dangerous.
Yeah, I think she's going to be super dangerous on this kind of a course at this part of the race. I picked her at the start to be the one who could win it today, but will she do that knowing her teammate Gabriella Aguero is also going for a podium position? I'm not sure that she will. She hopefully will play the team game today, not sacrifice her own race, but just make sure that she doesn't, get in the way of some points there, like we somewhat saw with Michael Kaminsky happen in the men's race previously to this. But looking at Tiffany Penner, she's been caught by Nicole Meyer, so she's slowed up a little bit. I saw Tiffany. She went down to about 180 watts there over the top, so I'm not sure what she was playing at there, if she just ran out of a bit of energy. But Nicole Meyer also riding extremely well today from next. She's out the front. About 7 seconds now, 8 seconds, that big group behind. You can just see looming like a big great white shark coming through to attack them as they hit these corners of the grade so high. 10% they'll hit, and it's really, really hard on the legs, and knowing you've still got the epic climb to come up. But this is where the moves have to be made to get over the top, get away like we saw in the men's race, and hold it on the flats. Here they go. They're about to catch.
Yeah, and it looks like Gara here leading the charge. 6.8 watts per kilogram coming from her currently. Kate McCarthy there right on the wheel. Going to lock to her wheel most likely. Gara now continuing on 6.6. Eiley Gardner here grabbing the wheel here. This is the serious moves on the grade, as we were talking about. Penner's now going to be caught. Nicole Meyer just about to be caught here. People starting to go out the back. Liz Van Houweling we're seeing there starting to fall off the back. Maria Holdcroft ways back, but maybe just looking for the wheels to grab at this point as Gara now continues 6.7 going right on by Kate McCarthy, locked to her wheel.
Oh, look at this. You can see the virtual rankings on the left-hand side of the screen there. Gabriella Aguero is putting herself into a great position to take second place if she can stay ahead like here. And they're sandwiched in between the two teammates is Kate McCarthy. If this group of three go over the top of the grade ahead of everyone else, this is perfect for Gabriella Aguero in this race. Probably not perfect to take the win. We're not going to see the blow up from Kate McCarthy, but we didn't expect to see it on this type of a course. So this is best option for Gabriella, is that she could take the overall win, and not only that, move into second place ahead of Maria Holdcroft.
Yeah, it looks like Gara here just driving the pace, not caring who is on the wheel here as Kate McCarthy is locked onto her. 6.7, 6.8, 6.9 as they get into this 12% gradient, trying to break everybody. The determination, you can see the poker face there continuing on. Look at the 75 RPMs here, grinding 341 watts, 6.8, coming through that turn 8 as you can see, trying to break everyone. Eiley Gardner even falling off the climber on the day, we would say, as Kate McCarthy here continues to just try and hold on to the wheel. The two that have gone head to head over and over again. This has been the story of 2024-25. Kate McCarthy versus Gabriella Aguero. It's happening again right here now in the final on the epic of the Zwift Games.
This is a great mano-a-mano battle. They've got 14 seconds now on the group behind. By group, I mean, two riders. We're spread out so much on this hill now. These two must keep working like this to get the gap bigger so that they're not caught on the downhill. They're quite lightweight riders, so they won't be as fast on the downhill, but the two of them together works really well. Very interesting enough will be if Kate McCarthy will work with Gabriella Aguero on the flats. This is a sort of a real Tour de France femme 2024 situation where you had Paulina Royackers off the front with Demi Vollering. Now, would they work together? Paulina Royackers did not work with her, and that did not bode well for Demi Vollering in the final. So I'll be really interested to see as they come up and over the top whether they will work together on the downhill and the flats, rotate the super tuck. You'd hope so, because they've got a great lead now, about 18 seconds on Kristen Kulczynski, but Lou Bates doing very well, 10 seconds behind with Maria Holdcroft, and those two are currently sitting in the top 5, so they must use the last parts of this climb to get those few extra seconds.
Yeah, they're going to really have to work really hard, Kate McCarthy and Gabriella Aguero, to hold off this pack. There's still plenty of firepower behind, and Maria Holdcroft here is doing everything she can. It's a kind of a Neil Fryett kind of situation a little bit to try and take as many points as she can. There's a lot of gap now, though, on the points between Holdcroft and Gara, so it does put Gara in a really good position to grab the second place overall in the Zwift Games. She will be motivated for that, but I have a feeling that this is more about the win on the day to try and make something happen. Eilidh Gardner, nice job from her, staying consistent, and that's what it's going to be about for Eilidh, because Eilidh can just set this tempo and go at about this speed over and over and over and over again. Now over the top, though, Kate McCarthy, she's got, it looks like, a second gear to bring to the table. Starts to press the pace here, actually, a little bit. 6.2 watts per kilogram here coming in from Kate McCarthy. She wants to get rid of Eilidh Gardner. That's what's going on at this point. Kate McCarthy does not want to see Eilidh come back, so that is actually motivation for Kate McCarthy, because if Eilidh doesn't get back on terms, the downhill is going to be a threat to Eilidh, so Eilidh needs to hang on at this point as Kate McCarthy turns the screws at the front.
Yeah, and she's really pushing it up this 13% grade. Look how steep that looks in game, and look at the effort that Kate McCarthy is putting in here. Huge amount of effort to drop Eilidh Gardner off the back. She does not want another teammate with her. That is not a good position for her to be in. So she is pushing so hard to make that happen, and Eilidh Gardner is just not losing touch, and the gradient is starting to ease off a little bit now as they're coming to the top, and Eilidh Gardner has made it. This is perfect team tactics from Wahoo to just come over the top with the leader, 2 against 1. What will Kate McCarthy be able to do here? These girls, if they're together, should try and do some counter attacks when they get to that flat portion off the descent. Kate McCarthy pushing again, though, to just get a little bit of a gap here. She does not want anyone coming to the finish line with her, and this is very dangerous for those riders with her. We saw Gabby going very hard up the climb, but Kate had that little extra kick. So this is going to be a very interesting epic climb that we've got coming up after this descent.
Yeah, it was a little. I saw Kate McCarthy continuing on, actually. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like to me like Kate McCarthy was not interested in staying around. There's a big kick, actually, from Kate McCarthy getting into 11 watts per kilogram there real quickly. So she's definitely interested in keeping the gap. Interesting enough. So I'm wondering what's going on here with Kate McCarthy. Like, is she trying to drop these two? Is she thinking about somebody behind at this point? It's an interesting tactic. I get the sense that Kate McCarthy is now, maybe she just jumped up into the super tuck, actually, there it looked like, and made the other riders there work for a second. It's interesting. Eilidh here continues to pedal onto the wheel and doing these little jumps. I'm not sure that it's helping a little bit. I'm seeing perhaps little gaps opening up as they're all kind of working a little bit. Maybe this is about Maria Holdcroft, though, behind for Eilidh and Gara here, maybe trying to come through with a lot of speed, perhaps. But Kate McCarthy continues to be the one that gets into the super tuck at the front here. Now the roll through, are they going to do it correctly is going to be the big question, and keep the speed, because Maria Holdcroft's only 14 seconds back.
I'm really surprised by this. I don't know why Kate McCarthy is working so hard on this descent, because she doesn't care if Maria Holdcroft catches back on. Gabby cares if Maria catches back on. Gabriella Aguero must not have Maria Holdcroft get back onto this group, and she's holding at around 13 seconds. Here we go. We can see her in view here. She is working really hard, and as a solo rider, this is good for her because she can get into a super tuck like she's just done now. She won't have anyone rolling through at a slower speed. Really surprisingly, with the front group, we saw Eilidh Gardner kind of come through pushing pedals and not going into a super tuck, and kind of slowed the pace a little bit. It's now down to 12 seconds. Gabriella Aguero is the one here who has to work. Why is she not going to the front here? She must make sure that Maria Holdcroft does not get back on terms with the 3 riders at the front. If she gets back on 10 seconds now, she's coming really fast.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Holdcroft is going to get back on terms because there's some infighting going on here. And I think all the riders are thinking about the final climb and not wasting any effort. I have a feeling that this is more about making sure that the effort is in the legs for the final climb and not necessarily wasting anything on this downhill section where you can get the biggest reserve, whereas Holdcroft has to put in a big amount of effort here. Well, a little bit of a kick it looks like from Gara, perhaps looking to put the others on the back foot. Kate McCarthy now kicks up into it, looks like a big little jump from her as we see her avatar get up and out of the saddle. The Golden Tron there lighten up. They're going to roll right on through and keep a little bit of speed as they get up into about 60, almost 59, 60 kilometers per hour. We're seeing now here from Maria Holdcroft. What is she traveling out? She's at 5 seconds. It's going to still be a lot of work from her at 61 kilometers per hour, 62. So it's definitely still some work to put in at 5 seconds. And as it flattens out, she'll have to work to get back on terms right before the climb. We'll see how much she can reserve and rest because the reality is, well, she's at 0 watts per kilogram, though, now at this point. So, without these two working, this is actually a lot of rest here for Maria Holdcroft. So maybe there's a little bit of wind in the sails and she can try and bring something back or get a top 3 overall today.
Yeah, I mean, Maria Holdcroft, I've been watching her this time. Her heart rate is not going too high. She has recovered on this descent, and not only has she recovered, she's caught back on. Eilidh Gardner here needs to work for Gabriella Aguero when they hit the flat. This is between getting second and third for their team. It's not going to impact Eilidh Gardner's result. She's currently sitting in, what have I got, 10th place. It doesn't matter for her. She could come behind all these girls. It doesn't matter. She needs to get on the front and work like we saw with Hayden Pucker working for Neil Fryett, even though they're on different teams, but countrymen, along this flat portion after the descent. So we really need to, and Eilidh Gardner's moving to the front at 4 watts a kg. She needs to get up and out of the saddle, riding at that 8-9 watts a kg to get into a really fast super tuck, which is what Maria Holdcroft did the whole way down. And here she is. And she's back into the super tuck. She knows what's to do. And if these guys don't watch out, she's going to get a gap, which is what she's doing now. She has ridden this descent perfectly. And I am just very perplexed by some of the team dynamics going on in the group of 3.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, though, that there's just a reality that using the effort on the downhill, maybe they didn't feel like it was worth it. Eilidh being a very light rider, too, out of those 3, I think Mary Kate McCarthy most likely is going to be descending the fastest between the 3 of them, and trying to send Eilidh on the downhill is just not. It's just going to be a losing game, and it's going to put Eilidh out for the overall at the line. So perhaps they're thinking, look, you know where you're good. Gara and Gardner, they're good on the uphill. Use the uphill. You've already done it once to Holdcroft, and now it's about beating Holdcroft and McCarthy to the line for the podium on the day. So perhaps they're just saying, we know where we can really put the efforts in. Let's save it for there, because Mary Kate McCarthy has shown that she is a competitor on this long, uphill grind. And we're going to make sure that we have the effort when it matters the most there. And, Holdcroft still had to work on the downhill a little bit, and so for them, I think it's a horse apiece.
Okay. A nicer take on it than I do. Although I do see now what I wanted to see, which was Eilidh Gardner going to the front, Gabriella Aguero relaxing at the back. These are good team tactics here. Have Eilidh do the work. Kate McCarthy can sit on the wheel. They've got 35 seconds all the way back to Nicole Mayer. So they've moved ahead. This is the group that is going to be the top 4 today. It's just how that top 4 is going to play out. Kate McCarthy has taken the overall. What we're looking at here is a race between Gabriella Aguero and Maria Holdcroft. Now, I called Maria Holdcroft the silent assassin for a reason, is that she tends to do really well when it matters, in a way that she may not be winning, but she gets the points required, and she obviously knows the maths behind this and what she needs to do. So as we look ahead to this epic climb, like I've said before in the race we had before, it's a stepped climb. I think this plays into the likes of a Maria Holdcroft. You have a steep portion, then you've got a bit of descent recovery. We've just seen how good she is on descents, getting in the super tuck and using momentum. Then it's up, push into another bit of steep section, and then a bit of downhill recovery. Now, who did this well in the men's race? Neil Fryett. And we would not have said he was a classic climber. So I think Maria Holdcroft has put herself into an unbelievable position here. We're not looking at a grade-like climb. We're looking at something quite different.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. And did Maria Holdcroft reserve enough, actually, over the top of the grade, didn't go outside of herself, and then used the downhill to get back on terms, whereas the other riders, they went up the road at 6-7 watts per kilogram. A lot of the afterburners perhaps used through that section. So it's a great point. Holdcroft, perhaps, as you said, silent assassin. Now, looking at the overalls here, I have to see if Maria Holdcroft puts herself at the front or up toward the front, things that have to work out in a very specific way here for her to take this down. I think essentially Maria Holdcroft has to take the win right here, perhaps, in order for her, or no, she just has to beat Gabby and maybe put one rider between them. It looks like to me something along those lines, as we see Kate McCarthy obviously going to be taking this win. So it's all about second place here for the Zwift Games overall, and then obviously everybody battling it out for the epic. Now we're about to start the climb here in just a moment. Left-hand turn, and we get right into the gradients that are the final for the day out here as Eilidh Gardner makes her way to the front.
Oh, that just looks like such a wall, doesn't it, right ahead of you? They would have had a bit of a break on the descent and that relatively flat portion, but now this is where it all matters. As we see Kate McCarthy moving straight to the front, but with Gabriella Aguero on her wheel and Eilidh Gardner also kicking up pretty strong. But I've got eyes on Maria Holdcroft, around 400 watts she is hitting on the base of this climb. We're seeing Eilidh Gardner in the picture-on-picture. She always just looks so relaxed at this climbing. This is her wheelhouse. This is what she's good at, but we're seeing a little bit of distance here with Gabriella Aguero creating that in front of Kate McCarthy, although Kate McCarthy right on that wheel, stuck like glue. I've got to say, Maria Holdcroft is not a great sign. She's sort of yo-yoing a little bit here at the back. Like I said, though, she can just stay up on these steep portions, these 9-10% gradients, before they hit a bit of downhill recovery. She can recover, super tight momentum, kick up the next one. But this first one is really going to show whether she can stay on for this whole climb.
Yeah, 100%. Now it's going to be into the final little gradients here before the first downhill. We'll see who can hang on as they make their way up this 8-9% first little kick. Then there's a downhill, and then there's a sharp uphill for a while into a very sharp downhill, and then the final little climbs into the cabins area, and then a kick up into a flattened out sprint. There is a group behind about 16 seconds back. They actually have these riders within sight, interesting enough, but I have a feeling that's going to continue to go out unless these riders really start to look at each other, which this is getting cagey. This is really starting to turn into who's got what, where, how, and why. A lot of these riders may be starting to wonder what is going to play out on these slopes and whether or not they've got the effort to chase to chase down any kind of attacks. Now looking at the second group out on course, this is going to have Catherine Ferrer is here, Christian Kolchinski, Lou Bates, Nicole Meyer. What a breakthrough ride for Nicole Meyer. Awesome to see her here and involved.
As we go back to the main pack, they've just hit that little bit of descent, heading up again now, 9%, 10% gradient. We've got Gabriella Aguero leading away again. I think Kate McCarthy's just happy to sort of sit right next to her, don't make any moves. She doesn't need to. She doesn't need to make any moves, but I think she still wants to take the win on the road as well as the overall win. Eilidh Gardner now moving to the front at about 7 watts per kg. This is a good sort of move from her, although again, I'd prefer she play that game. Make sure Gabriella Aguero is on her wheel. They are dropping Maria Holdcroft there. She's about 3 bike lengths behind Kate McCarthy, who's sitting in third place. Maria Holdcroft is really at the end of her tether now. You can just see that elastic band starting to break. She's got to make it over this portion to make sure she stays in touch, and I think it's just too hard for her. She's starting to really drop off now. That's about 10 bike lengths as we see Eilidh Gardner in her garage really pushing, fans going, those 3 together at the front, but I think they've realized they can't slow down because Maria Holdcroft just is not giving up. She knows she can just get to this little peak we can see here covered in snow before she heads into this descent. Look how hard she is working on that bike. She is all over it, trying to stay in touch. And look at her, she's reduced that. It's about 8 bike lengths now as they hit this next small portion of micro recovery downhill.
Eilidh Gardner with the push there, but not continuing on, interesting enough, and definitely just trying to break people, but then if someone's still on the wheel, doesn't actually commit. It's interesting. I think this is every woman for themselves at this point. I don't think that this is going to be about the Zwift Games overall to me. If this was about the Zwift Games overall, that would have continued on, but instead backed off as nothing was able to hold on. Gara now giving a little bit of a kick from the back to follow over with Kate McCarthy, as Kate McCarthy now makes her way to the front. Kate says, enough with the games. To the front, 6.2 watts per kilogram. End this already, it looks like to me, from the current reigning world champion.
Yeah, and this might be the nail in the coffin for Maria Holdcroft. I just saw her drop back quite a bit further, about 8 sort of bike lengths heading into that next portion of uphill. Really steep, that one, up to about 11% gradient. We're seeing the chasers there, but back onto the main bit at the front. Eilidh Gardner right in the area she wants to be, at the front, setting her own tempo, setting her own pace. But look at that determination on Kate McCarthy's face. She is all in for the win. She's got the jersey open, the fans going, her support crew right next to her, telling her all the stats, letting her know when to go. Eilidh Gardner pushes again, but Gabriella looking very, very controlled on that wheel of Kate McCarthy. She's not dropping at all, and it looks like Maria Holdcroft is gone now from this main pack, 4 seconds back. So I'd say what we're seeing on screen is what we'll get at the end, which is Kate McCarthy taking this out, Gabriella Aguero in a second place, Maria Holdcroft dropping down to third.
Yeah, Catherine Furr on the chase, it looks like, but it's a little bit too much too late for the points there, as Catherine Furr takes over 4th place overall up against Lou Bates and Lucy Charles Barkley there for the virtual overall. Eilidh Gardner continues to press the pace as we get into the 13% gradient, but it's Kate McCarthy, I think, now coming over the top. So this is definitely getting interesting. They're going to get very cagey, I think, now at this point. Maria Holdcroft pushing back again, looking to try and bring this back as the riders start to look at each other just a little bit. Holdcroft's got 5 seconds now, it looks like. Don't think that's going to be coming back as the attacks happen over and over again, unless these riders really start to blow up. As Kate McCarthy continues on at the front, 5.8. Gara just sitting on, making sure she is locked to that wheel. Who's got the punch still to the line is going to be the big question mark. Is Gardner now just matching Kate McCarthy? Each one of them just matching each other, it looks like here. This is such a cagey game for the top 3 overall in this epic championship right now. 9% gradient over the top of this hill, and then it's going to be one last sharp downhill, and then you've got the last 2 tiers to the top.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are super cagey. It's like they're locked onto each other's wheels. They're like snipers just staying on there. Kate McCarthy just sandwiched in between 2 teammates. But like you said, I think it's every woman for themselves now that this top 3 has basically been held down with their positions on the road. So Eilidh Gardner, she's pushing very hard, but up and out of the saddle, then down again. The cadence is switching around a little bit. Kate McCarthy has mostly stayed in the saddle. You can see that on her avatar, but also when she's in game. Gabriella Aguero there pushing over there, getting a good position going into this descent. Big descent here, negative 10%. They can get into a super tuck if Eilidh Gardner can do it. She hasn't shown a whole lot of skill there in getting into the super. She's just going to keep pushing pedals. I bet they wanted to get into a super tuck, have a little bit more recovery. You can just see Maria Holdcroft in the background, but I think she is gone now. Just coming by. Yeah, she's about 5 seconds back now, but coming through into this last push, Nathan. 2 kilometers to go. The road pulls up in front of them. Is anybody going to attack out of this group, or are they just all on threshold?
It's interesting to see. I mean, everybody is just matching each other. Nobody's showing their cards. Look at Eilidh, 194 beats per minute. To me, it looks like each one of them are just sitting right at threshold. They're watching each other, playing every little. I mean, they're looking for that little wrong move on a chessboard, right? Oh, that one right there was the one I was looking for. A chink in the armor to maybe be able to make a move, because they're so evenly matched. They're just watching for that moment to take advantage of any mistake or any kind of weakness that they can sense. It's so interesting to see how evenly matched they are. This is everything for the podium right here between these 3 on the day. What a battle we have out in front of each other. Eilidh Gardner, Gabriella Aguero versus the world champion, it looks like, with Mary Kate McCarthy. And Maria Holdcroft, because of that, has them within striking distance, continues to just work on the day.
Yeah, she's working so hard. She's never given up. She's seen them the whole time. It's like a carrot to chase. And she's up there riding over 330 watts to get back on. And she may do this because we've got 1.6 kilometers to go. But remember, that last sort of 800 really flattens out and actually has a downhill finish. And I've got to say, if there's one person you don't want to take to the line, it's actually Kate McCarthy heading into this last bit. You don't want to be sprinting with her at the end as we see Maria Holdcroft coming all over the bike. The effort she has put in, and she looks like she will make touch again. This is phenomenal from her. This is such tenacity for her team Cryo RDT to not give up. What an inspiration.
Yeah, it's interesting. This actually does not play for Eiley at all. If Eiley can set a much higher pace than this, and I think the games here that have been played have put her actually in a really bad position because Maria Holdcroft may be able to take out Eiley Gardner now at this point. So will they be able to kick again and drop her again? It's going to be all up to Eiley Gardner now at this point to just do what she knows that she can do on these last gradients, because this is the final kick to the line, and whether or not they can break the other 2 or 3. And there goes the feather power up. Big feather power up here. It looks like, I believe, from Eiley Gardner, using that up into 8 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram, big kick, and that's going to put the nail in the coffin most likely. These are the last moves now as she kicks 7.5 watts per kilogram, and it's going to be Eiley Gardner now making the final moves as they have 1K to the line.
And they've slightly dropped Kate McCarthy, haven't they? So Gabriella Aguero up to 422 watts there for a little bit. Now, does she still have a feather to play? I think she does. Kate McCarthy definitely doesn't. And here we go. Maria Holdcroft also had a feather. She didn't use hers. She's trying desperately to get back on, 5 seconds back. Kate McCarthy manages to make it onto this group as Eiley kicks again. Gabriella Aguero hasn't made her move yet. We're heading into the flat portion of the race, 820 meters to go. They will be coming around this corner, a little bit of a climb to go, and then finally they will reach the plateau, and that is going to be where Kate McCarthy will do her best to take this out. She's got a huge kick. They really need to drop her now, but it doesn't look like they've been able to, Nathan.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting whether or not, Kate McCarthy's just locked to the wheel and nobody's able to make the move here at this point. It looks like as Kate McCarthy is on it, and whether or not this is going to actually work out for the Wahoo team is going to be a big question. Big kick though coming in from Gara. She uses the feather power up all in, it looks like, and this is the move. How much can she do to the line? She's going to have to hold all the way to the line. 3 seconds. Kate McCarthy's going to have to hold on to this one. Everything all in for Gara. 9 watts per kilogram. Will she be able to hold off the world champion's going to be the big question. This was the reserve that she had, the feather power up for this moment. Will Gabriella take this? It looks like she might be able to do it, but she's going to have to really sprint all the way to the line because Kate McCarthy has such a kick, but I think Gara has done it. It's 5 seconds. Gabriella Gara marked this one on the calendar and said, this will be mine. The Epic Championship. I'm going to put my stamp on it when the going gets tough. Gara shows up and throws down, and that's what she's done today. Gara's going to take this one down.
Unreal effort there from Gabriella Aguero. I knew she had the feather. She dropped it at such a great time. And when she went taking it out. There she is, hands aloft. She has done it. Look at the effort that. What a huge emotional win there from Gabriella Aguero. Kate McCarthy in second place. Such a great result for her. She takes out the overall for the Zwift Games 2025. But Gabriella Aguero on the line. What a result.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tears, actually. She was really marking this one, I know. And really, really a break of pressure, when you put a lot of pressure on a race. I know there was a ton of it there for this race. But look at Kate McCarthy as well. These two, they show up and they just race their hearts out. I know they've been messaging each other a lot and congratulating each other after each race. And they've been telling each other, you pushed me so hard. You pushed me so hard to new levels. But here we still have battles going on now. Here we go. A feather power. This is Lou Bates looking to take 5th on the day. Krista Golchinski was trying to hold on to that 5th place on the day here. And that's going to change things up a little bit in the overall with these points, perhaps, as Lou Bates now grabs a few more. Catherine Furr most likely going to solidify herself in that 4th place. But big effort here from Lou Bates. nicely done as she makes her way to the line just over the top of Kristen Kolchinski. And Camelia Hallberg, what a ride from her. Looks like she's most likely going to be able to hold on to 7th place on the day as we watch our final for the top 10 across the line.
And big kudos to Lucy Charles Barkley, who looks like she's retained 10th over the line, and that pushes her up to 6th place overall, up from 7th place that she came in starting the day. What a phenomenal result from her. She knew she's not a pure climber like some of these other girls are, but wow, that is a way to solidify our result.
Definitely it is. And good to see Catherine Furr, really holding on to this 4th place overall. I know she had a little bit of frustration from the climb championship. Got caught out a little bit at a couple of times where things could have maybe been different from her because of that, stage 3 and stage 4. I think perhaps losing more points than she had anticipated on those. So nicely done for her to get some points back and show up today and solidify that 4th place. Look at Lucy Charles Barkley. What a race from Lucy Charles Barkley. You love to see it. Coming into esports, getting into the top 10 in the overall for the Zwift Games. It's so great to see as she's been one of the most aggressive riders out here, and it's going to pay off for her for a top 10.
Yeah, these have just been some amazing and emotional results. Seeing Gabriella Aguero there, just the tears coming out, the emotion. So great to see. Kate McCarthy, 2nd place over the line. Ailey Gardner held on to a 3rd place. Maria Holdcroft, one of the most impressive performances of the day, just coming back to that group. 4th place for her. Lou Bates in 5th. Camilla Ahlberg in 6th. Kristen Kolchinski, great result in 7th. Catherine Furr, we just saw cross the line in 8th. Nicole Mayer in 9th. And Lucy Charles Barkley rounding out the top 10.
What an emotional win there for Gabriella Aguero, and such a well-deserved win there as well. To be honest, when they came out towards the finish as that trio, I was thinking we're in for a very close sprint finish there, but you saw the results. 9.5 seconds the gap in the end from Aguero back to Kate in 2nd place. So it wasn't close in the end, but she did have that feather power up in her back pocket and she deployed it at just the right time. Now, normally we have to try and make a connection with the winners of these races so we can get an interview afterwards. But Nathan, I presume I can just say, can you pass the phone over to Gabby for me? Because she's right next to you in the room.
Well, actually, she just walked out, I think, for her interview, so it didn't cross over. I saw her grabbing a phone and heading upstairs real quick. Otherwise, I would have given her a big hug and had her come in here. But I did know that there was a lot of pressure put on this race. I wasn't sure how she was actually going to play it necessarily at the end there with reserving the feather power up, save it for the sprint and try and have a better sprint or try and go early. Taking Kate to the line just doesn't seem to work out very well, though. So it looks like, it worked out for her on the day. I was getting a little nervous, to be honest, for Gabby, because it's been those two neck and neck always.
It has been a great competition throughout between those two, hasn't it, Anna? And on that first climb, there was a point where it looked like Kate might just be getting distance ever so slightly, but she's so strong in pretty much every scenario. She's an all-rounder, but right at the top of her game in all of those pieces of the pie that make up Zwift Games and esports. But she gets the tactics dead on as well. She took those 10 points at the first intermediate sprint, and that pretty much guaranteed her the overall, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was her from the start. Get the points, know that she had those in the bag, and then it was just a matter of her literally locked on to Gabby's wheel. She did not move from Gabby's wheel the whole time, and I think about halfway up that last climb I realized that I don't think she will win this today because she didn't attack. She wasn't racing aggressively like she usually does. She was in conservation mode. It was just stay on the wheel for as long as I possibly can. And it was interesting hearing the insight from Nathan, that Gabby had really focused on this race, had it in the calendar, and you could just see that she'd saved the feather perfectly for the moment she dropped it. Got away 9 seconds at the end. The other two just had absolutely nothing at that point.
Yeah, she just didn't let up until she crossed the finish. Well, I think just before the finish line, Nathan, she posted up in celebration. And after that, we could really see just how much it meant to her today. She must have been building up to today's race for a long time in her head.
Yeah, last night she kind of looked over at me and I could tell, "Are you okay? How are you doing? You okay?" And she kind of was like, I'm looking forward to the race tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to when it's done. So when you get into that mode, you know that there's a lot of build up to the moment, and then once you get out on course, I think that pressure kind of releases and you get into it all. And then once you can realize what you had envisioned, then it kind of all hits you at once, And so I think that's kind of how it played out for her. But yes, things got quiet in the last 24 hours, 48 hours around the house. So some concentration, I'll say that.
I reckon it'll be a bit noisier over the next 24 hours. It's safe to say that, Nathan. Well, I believe we do have Gabriella on a different line that we can speak to now, the winner of the Zwift Epic Championships 2025 and second in the overall competition. Gabby, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, like I've said to all of the other winners this week, I'm going to start with huge congratulations. And I think of all the celebrations and emotions I've seen across the line, yours has been at the very height. It clearly meant an awful lot to you to win today.
Yeah, it was my main goal today. It takes a lot. The level is super high, and it's been so fun competing with all those ladies. But I thought this course fits me well, and I really want to win it, even though for the overall it was a little tricky because of the points. But I knew I care more about winning this stage at this point. So.
And I'm sure you've been visualising the way things might play out on this final stage 5 of the Epic Championship. So I expect the scenario that did play out was quite close to a couple that you'd been imagining before you started today's stage. Again, once you've put so much time and effort and work into building towards a specific goal, it must make it so much sweeter when you sort of nail everything that you've planned.
Well, a part of planning for racing is learning to be flexible and play along with different situations. And I think for this race, in case where you have to go for points, it's always tricky. It depends. I was thinking different scenarios in my head, like, okay, if I get points at this place, then I can do this or that. But if my competition gets points on this place as well, everything changes. So you have to kind of be doing that on the go. Because, well, if a course is very hard and has a lot of times, you can also kind of sort things out a little. Like you kind of know the competition by this point, and I kind of was expecting who would be able to climb in a hard pace. Yeah, and I was hoping I could perform too. It was a lot of preparation until this point for sure. It goes from like the little detail. It's sleep, it's nutrition, it's training, it's resting, and we've been battling those same ladies over and over again. It's so awesome. And we push ourselves to such a level that is amazing. It's just like this little fine tuning that decides the winner each time.
Yeah, I mean, the sprint to the line, which lasted about 30 seconds for you, was unbelievable. You were close to 10 watts per kilo pretty much all the way to the finish line there. I wanted to rewind to a point in the race, though, where when we were looking at you on your trainer, it looked like you had some sort of mechanical problem. What was going on with your front wheel, and why were you bouncing it around?
You guys saw it on video. That's funny. I was live streaming as well. And I have the front wheel holder. If I sprint, my wheel goes off it, and like I had to like jump to put it back on, but my whole bike was on the side, so I had to jump with my bike to get back to the front. So it was like a little technical problem in like the middle of the I think Mayan climb. So I was just hoping I could get it fixed, and then it worked out.
Well, I'm glad you managed to bounce the front wheel back on. Obviously, we'll be shortly talking to Kate McCarthy, who's won the Zwift Games overall in 2025. She's such a formidable opponent, isn't she? Because she's such an all-rounder, but she nails the tactics. She's so good at the intermediate sprints as well. How much does she motivate you and push you to be a better version of yourself on the Zwift?
It's unbelievable. Like, we message sometimes back and forth last time. We're like just thanking each other because if I wouldn't have her and I wouldn't have me, we wouldn't push ourselves to that insane level. Like, I never thought I would be doing the numbers that I'm doing right now in order to, compete. And like every time we push a little further, what can we do to beat each other? And this battle has been going forever. And then the World Championship, and it's just amazing. And today I just started going longer and I saved my power up for the finish. And just I had in my mind when you said in the beginning of the show, oh, Jason Osborne holds 10 watts per kilogram for a minute. I was like, okay, that's my goal today. Obviously, not quite a minute, but I had this in my head. Let's finish 10 watts per kilogram strong on top. And I mean, but I have to say, sorry, final words. Also, this whole work doesn't happen with a team behind you because there's so much to think about. And even if it's esports and it's virtual, still the team helps so much. And I have to be something behind me one who supports and things for everybody along there. And I lead the job, obviously, all climbing and it's not so fun. So, yeah, congratulations to all the ladies and congratulations to Kate. And also to hear from winning the overall today. Congratulations and thank you guys.
Well, yeah, congratulations straight back at you. It was wonderful to watch you performing out there, not just today, but for the last 2 Saturdays as well. So I'm sure we'll see you back in action soon. Rest up, recover, and I hope you enjoy celebrating your victory tonight. Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to head straight back to Nathan. All the words that Gabby didn't say over the last 24 hours have been pouring out in the interview. Like I said, I think it's going to be a loud 24 hours to follow now.
Yeah, it'll be definitely some celebration, that's for sure. And definitely I can see that she's really, really excited. And, you know, also, though, like, as Gabby said, this is a, you know, high-end level of racing, obviously, but all these ladies really know each other and they really push each other. And a lot of them are communicating all the time. And it's become this cool community as well. It's really, a lot of these riders over the last 2-3 years, even some of the new introductions, have been growing into this sport together. It's really an early times for this genre of cycling. And because of that, the people who have gotten in early have formed a community online of elite racers who know each other week in and week out and push each other, communicate. And it's just really cool to see how they race so hard against each other and they're fierce competitors. But then on the other side of it, I think there's still a celebration for everybody, too.
And great to hear that such fierce competitors are texting each other and messaging each other between the races. Just a quick word, I think we've got Kate on the line shortly, but a quick word, Anna, on Eilidh Gardner, Gabby's teammate, because you were questioning a little bit the way she was riding between those final 2 climbs, but when it came to the climb towards the finish, it looked to me like she was trying to set things up for Gabby to win.
Yeah, I think once they got onto that flat rolling portion after the descent of the epic climb, before they hit the next epic climb, she did the perfect team roll there. She got on the front, she pushed the pace, Gabby got to sit on the back and recover. So I think that was perfectly played by the Wahoo team. I just think on the descent, enabling Maria Holdcroft to come in, I'm kind of a one, like, don't leave anything to chance. So I think it would have been better to not have her catch back on because that changed the dynamics a bit. But in the end, it played out perfectly.
It did perfectly in the end, didn't it? Right, let's take a look at the overall standings. We know that Kate McCarthy took the win. In the end, it was by 16 points over Gabriella Aguero in second place overall. What a 3 Saturdays it has been for Maria Holdcroft, though. And I'm sticking with the silent assassin nickname that Anna has given to her. Catherine Fryett remains in 4th overall and 341 points. And it was Lucy Bates. Charles Barkley up to 6th by the end of the series. Mika Söderström, Marlene Bjerrehead, the 2 Swedes in 7th and 8th. Eilidh Gardner up to 9th and another Swedish, Camilla Ahlberg, up to 10th overall. And a reminder, there is prize money all the way down to the top 30 on the general classification at the Zwift Games. Right, time to speak to Kate McCarthy for the 3rd time in 3 weeks. There was one thing that she didn't win, which was the Epic Championships, which went to Gabriella Aguero, but a very convincing win, Kate, in the overall Zwift Games. There you are. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Massive congratulations. If I told you before the start of the Zwift Games just over 2 weeks ago that you would win the Climb Championships, the Sprint Championships and the overall, would you have believed me?
No, probably not. I'm definitely not the sprint, that's for sure. But yes, those results.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said at the end there. I was going to ask you, it's quite clear that you didn't want to just settle for what you'd already won in this series because you pretty much had the overall up for wraps, but you definitely wanted to try and win that Epic Championships as well, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, for sure. We definitely targeted the first frame to make sure I had the overall, and then it was focusing on the finish. But congrats to Gabby, she rode a perfect race there and timed her power perfectly. I used my move earlier, but yeah, it worked out in the end.
I'm not sure if you just heard our interview with Gabby, who obviously won the Epic Championships today, but she mentioned how much you, as a rider and a person, kind of push her to try and be better on the Zwift E-Games, etc., and that you're messaging each other between the different stages and different rounds, etc. How much does she push you?
A lot. It's been awesome racing, and the girls like Maria and Catherine as well. We push each other week in, week out, and it's been an awesome battle between them all.
And when you knew that you were up against two teammates, I presume that meant in your head it was going to be much harder to take the actual win in the Epic Championships today.
Yeah, definitely. And I also together, so it was just about the timing, and when she used it, she used the perfect spot. So, yeah.
And was it pre-planned that you used your feather power up to get those 10 points in the first intermediate sprint?
Yeah, it was. We kind of decided no matter what after that, when still sealed up for the overall, but kind of wanted that confidence with having it and knowing I had it at that intermediate point.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Well, once again, for the final time, third time in 3 weeks, a massive congratulations from all of us at GCN and everybody at Zwift for all your titles that you've won over the last 3 weekends.
No, awesome. Thank you. And thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Well done to Kate McCarthy there. She's been absolutely unbeatable, pretty much, until the very finale of the Epic Championships final today. I'll just go back to Nathan and Anna. Anna, I'll come to you. How can people beat Kate McCarthy when this Zwift Games comes around again, or in any other competition that's coming up on Zwift in the near future?
I think they can beat her relatively easily. The reason I say that is because Kate McCarthy has won because of her smart approach to getting points. And I think there's a real way to beat her, which is to focus on those bonus points and just take those away from her. Because as we saw, she is beatable. It's hard, but she's beatable. But if you can play that bonus points game, I think you can have her. And she'll get frustrated by that. And that might impact her in those final stages of the race.
Does feel like a lot of riders will have learnt a lot by the way that both Kate McCarthy and Neil Fryett went about those intermediate sprint points, which became probably a lot more valuable than even we'd first anticipated. Would you agree, Nathan?
Yeah, I have to agree with that with 100%. And that's what made this really interesting, though, was that across the entirety of the competition, we had a GC competition that would play out at very key moments where there was a lot of high pressure, and then it would resolve. High pressure and then resolve. And that's kind of a cool peak to narrative and bring it back down, right? Without the story behind this, there isn't much to racing, right? It's all about the awesome narrative that the racers make, and the way that Zwift has played this out with those intermediate points, I think it puts a great story out there for the riders to play their hero narrative out into. And obviously the champions, they earned it at those places. They did their homework, and it's cool to see, very cool to see. And I'm excited for more racing like this.
I want to see them put one of the intermediate sprints at the foot of the grade. That'll see how confident people are to go for a sprint before that climb on the next Zwift Games. Just before we finish, Anna, just a quick word on Maria Holdcroft. We spoke to her before the start of Stage 5 today. She didn't sound super confident in her abilities on the longer climbs that they faced on this Stage 5. But she'll go away much more confident, surely, because although she was distanced a couple of times, she rode at her own pace, and she was very, very close to those first three.
Yeah, I mean, that was tenacity incarnate, wasn't it? Just seeing her drop off about 3 times, and then she was always there. Like I said at the beginning of that climb, though, I think it suited that kind of a rider. She could catch up on a few of the downhill bits, get a bit of momentum up to the uphill, but what a ride from her. I mean, she's got to be one of the most... one of my big heart picks now going forward into any races. I just love seeing that amount of tenacity in a rider.
She'd get Most Improved Rider award, I think, and she's probably got plenty of improvements still to make, given how new she is to this discipline in cycling. Anna, Nathan, thank you so much for the last 2 weeks, and for the last 3 weeks to you, Nathan. It's been an absolute pleasure from my end.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, it's been great. Absolutely love this. Thanks, Dan.
Great stuff. Hopefully we'll see you both again very soon indeed. Just before we finish though, if you at home have got the bug for this Zwift racing after watching the games over the last 3 Saturdays, then I've got some very good news for you. You'll also be able to see most of the same riders in action in round 4 of the Zwift World Series. They're going to be competing on the Sheeta Shakedown route, easy for me to say, and you can watch that on Zwift's YouTube channel on the 10th of April. Okay, all that leaves me to say is a huge thank you to our commentators Anna, Nathan and Hannah who commentated on stages 1 and 2, to Zwift for putting the event on, to the winners of course, primarily Kate McCarthy and Neil Fryett who won the most, to the riders for putting on a great show in general, and of course at you at home for watching as well. Cheers everyone, I'll see you all soon.